welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by the Antichrist himself, a one Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Sorry for calling you the Antichrist just then. That was
That's
a bit
all right.
mean, wasn't it? That's all right.
That's all right.
That's
I'm
all
not famously religious. That's fine.
You're
So in
not.
many
You're not
ways, I
famously
am.
religious.
I
You are
am
the
very.
Antichrist.
Yeah.
Tell me
That's what
this,
they'd
right?
say. I say live and let live.
Live and bloody let live. I was about to say, tell me this, and I was about to reveal a very key, big plot point about today's movie, this week's movie. Not going to do that. Going to save it. I don't know why.
Spoilers though for later.
I
Everybody warning.
Jumping in like that.
Remember at the end
Remember at the end of this film when this happened, and it
when
goes.
there's a Damien. Bloody hell.
To be fair, this film bloody ends like one of the Marvel movies, doesn't it? Where it goes. I'm here to talk to you about Operation Damien. What? No way. So that is a spoiler, but to be fair,
It's a prequel.
It's a prequel. So look, what do you expect? It's be more of a shock if they said, actually, Damien, we've just done him in. He's dead. The real Omen's never happened. It's in a parallel universe.
It's just there is just coincidentally a little bad boy. He's like Dennis the Menace. Actually, he's fine.
Boy. The baboons bark at the bad boy. We have not covered a film in the Omen franchise since covering The Omen, which had to have been in the first run of 50 episodes for this podcast when we were covering the Empire top 50. In fact,
wasn't even here.
You weren't even here. You hadn't been conceived yet in the world of Horror Hangout podcast. It was the 11th of October 2017. Which is
there you
crazy
go.
talk.
What episode number is that, Ben?
31.
Episode 31. So I'd been on with you. Maybe I've been on with you once or twice. So I was on like in the 20s to do It Follows.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about listening back to super old episodes because I'm sure they were nice and raw. They were definitely a lot shorter. I think we spent an hour on the first because I think we got straight into the movie as well back then. We used to just go, hello, this is us. This is us talking about a film. And so this week's film is this. Now we've got horror news, what we've been watching, general chin wag. You know what I mean? I would not want to be missing those things. So I'm glad we go a little bit longer. But of course, remember time codes if you do want to get straight into the episode and when we start talking about the movie.
Yeah. See, exactly. So help whatever your tastes. That's it. We've got you covered.
We've got you covered. Yeah, so how are you, Andy?
Yeah, I'm good. It seems weird. So for the listener, it feels like it's just been a week. For us two, it's been a couple of weeks because we stacked last week's up. We did a double shift the week before. Yeah. And you could go on your holidays.
Exactly. That, I mean, to the listener, you may have thought no different, but if the horror news seemed like it was a bit fit on the ground, that was why. Yeah, so I had a week off, which was nice, you know. It was nice to do that. I did miss it, Andy. I still do. I missed the routine of jumping on and chatting about a horror movie every single week.
But it's all right though, because it means we can do it. The show must go on. So we got it done.
Exactly. We can pull double duty again in the future if we need to. We never need to miss an episode, and we haven't for a long time, right? Ages. As long as.
I think maybe there was a couple of weeks off back when it was just you and Luke, when there's two of you, and I think someone got sick or something like that. But once there was three of us, it was never a problem.
Yeah. Me and Luke, I think we used to love a week off because it was almost like we'd never decide on what film we were going to watch anyway. So like we weren't breaking a promise by saying next week we're covering this. Tune in on this date. We kind of never really knew because we were just flying by the seats of our pantaloons.
Now properly organized, got weeks in advance.
Organized, yeah. It is worth mentioning actually that in terms of our schedule, John Crinnan was due to join us for this episode. However, he couldn't. He's not been omened. He's not been. He's not had a plane.
He had to go
pane
away.
Of glass. He's not have a pane of glass fly off of the back of a truck, cut his head off, and his head perfectly spin and roll. I mean, I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But
he's not been piped. he's not been arrested in a church at the last minute trying to stab a Wien to death.
It's a shame because John Crinnan, I did want to pick his brains a little bit about Schlock and Load because, as far as I'm aware, he's got like quite a rough cut of the short film now, which I think he screened for his small cast and crew just a few days ago. I saw him tweet about it. He's obviously posted some screenshots. We've been getting some behind the scenes looks as well and some looks at Daisy's makeup. I definitely wanted to find out more. So we are
Can't
going to have
wait to
to.
see Schlock and Load. I'm really looking forward to it.
So we're going to have to go. John Crinnan, you stitched us up on it in April. Get yourself back on the show in May.
Yeah,
God damn
we're
it.
going to get him back when work schedules allow, and we'll get him back on.
Yeah, yeah.
This will be the
Definitely.
way to find out that John Crinnan is the Pope's exorcist now. So, he's got to try and beat a record.
He is the Pope's exorcist. Is that true?
Canon for the show, yeah. John Crinnan, his job is he's the Pope's
Canon
exorcist.
for the show.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. I mean, in terms of horror news, there are a few things obviously we missed the week, obviously last week because we pulled double duty, but we've had a couple of trailers and a couple of reboot pieces of news. The first trailer I'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about is the trailer for Maxine. The reason I'll mention it is because we've just recorded a trailer reaction. That should be on YouTube maybe before this episode, maybe after. Either or, keep your eye out. Look on the YouTube channel.
Get and watch
Us
it.
us watching the trailer, reacting to an 80s neon-soaked, amazing soundtrack, stacked cast, great looking film with some sort of like true crime elements as well, with the Night Stalker stuff. Bates Motel appearing in it as well. We didn't even mention that much in the reaction, but we should mention it. Bates Motel, in some way, shape, or form, appears. Is it appearing as like a film set, or is it appearing as Bates Motel as canon in this world?
I'm assuming as a film set. I think that still exists. I've seen it in like the Bates
Yeah.
Motel has appeared in certainly either an episode of Diagnosis Murder or Murder She Wrote, possibly both. So it's around. And now
I feel like it.
Maxine's solving a mystery around it.
I feel like it should appear in everything. Get the
Yeah.
Bates Motel in there in the background to make it everything infinitely cool. Obviously, yeah, there's a true crime element with the Night Stalker as well being involved somehow. Whether that the character will cross paths with Maxine, who knows? Maybe Maxine gets older. What's his name?
Richard Reynolds. That's not his
Richard
name. That's one
Reynolds.
of our friends. Richard Ramirez.
Richard Ramirez. Not the bloody
So
alliteration. The
yeah,
alliteration's
so
got me again, I'm afraid,
yeah,
and I've
it's,
called you a murderer.
it's Richard Ramirez, not Rich Reynolds, a comic writer, artist, and comic store owner from Mansfield. It's not him.
Maybe the
It's a
first time
murderer.
we've mentioned him the first time we mentioned him on the show, and maybe the last now after that, Andy.
Now I've called him a murderer.
But you know what? It looks great. The trailer looks awesome. Apparently, this is the biggest story of the three with the highest stakes. Maxine has gone through so much, and then we find her in this new world. She's just a force to be reckoned with. This is what Mia Goth said, by the way. It's not me saying this. And she goes through some pretty wild adventures. That's what I like to call. And yeah, I think I'd watch, as I mentioned before. What did I mention this already? I'd watch anything with Mia Goth in. If somebody said, here's a film about something that you find really boring, stamp collection, could be exciting.
I think a
Mia
Mia
Goth's
Goth
in it.
stamp collection film would be fucking off the wall. I'd be mad.
It would be mad. And watching her lick tiny squares of paper,
Gummed
I'm sure
paper.
gummed paper. Maxine is about the golden age of Hollywood in sort of affected by the golden age of Hollywood and glitz and glamour of cinema. Maxine will be about the industry itself and the boom of VHS.
Yes.
Get a Bates Motel in everything, right? Get VHS in everything in some one way, shape, or form. Let's have an
I mean, as
alternate
soon as you've said
reality.
VHS, I feel like probably need Aaron to come and talk about that with us, just because for some now this man has now come to embody an entire format for me.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, exactly. He's very blocky. He's got two little circular things you can
And
wind
you've
in
got
the
to
middle of his
rewind him. When we've had him on the show before, after we finish, we come off record and he has to very quickly go back over what he said in reverse.
repeats
Rewind him,
himself all
otherwise
the
he'll
time,
decay.
doesn't he? Otherwise he'll decay. Which is in fact, Andy, what all of us are doing very slowly. Okay,
That's how he looks so good. He's
we're
50
all.
years old.
He's 50 years old. Bloody hell,
Because
Aaron.
he always
Want
rewinds, he's fine.
want to know about what your moisturizer scenario is? Another trailer. Let's mention this. Let's talk about this because this isn't going to have standard reaction from us. It definitely hasn't had the standard reaction from the world of horror fans. Speak No Evil remake trailer. James McAvoy is the main star in it. I kind of thought, hey, in Speak No Evil, I won't try and spoil it. What I will say is this trailer bloody spoils everything. And
Oh, I'm
also,
not going to watch
it
the trailer then because it's the Scandi one from a couple of years ago, right?
it looks like a word for word, moment for moment remake of a film that already exists in another language. So this is, you know, this is very, very silly. There's no
Yeah.
way that things like this should exist. I think like the earliest what version of something like this happening was when Wreck was remade and called Quarantine, and it was like exactly the same. I kind
Yeah.
of think I've got I have a little bit of patience for English language remakes if they're going to do something different. Like for example, Train to Busan, which is being remade as Last Train to New York. I'm hoping, look, if that's a completely different film, but zombies and train is the only thing that's kind of similar. But I think shot for shot a remake is kind of mad. And also the thing that makes Speak No Evil such a difficult, jarring watch is like how the film unfolds. And honestly, it feels like everything is there in this trailer to show
Okay.
you how everything plays out. There's even a couple of moments where I'm like, that's like a big set piece that we're seeing a couple of seconds of, And there's even a reveal. There's a reveal of a certain character in the Danish version, in the original version. There's a reveal, and it is one of those like, oh my god moment. It's in this bloody trailer. Can't believe it.
Oh, that's
It's,
awful. Do you think if you didn't have the context of the original, you'd get it, or is it really, really explicit without spoiling it
I
here?
think it's obvious. There's at least a couple of shots to set it up, and then there's a moment where you're like, oh, okay. And it kind of like goes, okay, now I understand why it's called this. But James McAvoy as well. I mean, I kind of thought James McAvoy, is he going to be playing the protagonist? But he's not. He's playing the
Does he speak
antagonist.
no or evil?
Does he
Which of
what?
those three characters does he speak no
Does
or
he
evil?
speak no or evil? He's honestly, I feel like he's evil. But
Okay.
the fact that this film is 2 years old, I'm pretty sure. Now you can tell me off. You can tell me if I'm correct or not. Was it in English anyway, or was it?
You know what? I've not seen the original yet. I might have to hurry and watch this.
Oh,
But I am kind of conflicted because
don't watch
I
this
will watch the
trailer.
original first. I'm not going to
Do
watch the trailer.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm gonna
the
get and watch
only
the old one.
reason the only reason I will watch this film is to see what James McAvoy's performance is like,
Yeah,
because obviously he's great in Split, and I feel like maybe he's channeling a little bit of that in this as well. And
yeah.
he's also kind of channeling that sort of, like scary working class bloke. You know what I mean? He seems like he's a laugh. He's like having a beer, and then 2 minutes later he's like, "What have you said?
Oh,
You be you
like
bloody
Stephen
what?"
Graham. Like
Like Stephen Graham,
oh no.
exactly
So
like that.
I feel like you could meet him as an actor and he could be telling you about his process, and I would be terrified as an interview that he's gonna glass me, even if I was on a Zoom call.
How did you get glassed? Zoom call. Stephen Graham. Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow he made me glass myself on
Oh, like that.
a laptop screen isn't even made of glass. Don't know how he got me.
It happens, doesn't it? Um, Again, I don't want to jump on because I think is it. I don't think it's a Blumhouse one, is it? No, it is a Blumhouse one. Blumhouse, what are you doing? Because Blumhouse was a name that was synonymous with quality for a while back then. But what's happening at the moment? Because now it's
It's turning
becoming
into the bloody Nintendo Switch eShop, isn't it? You get on there, there's any old shovelware coming out.
shovelware. It's getting to
It's
a
like
point now where
Adventures of Croc, 79p. Get in.
that's great. I ain't arguing with that. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this. This feels totally unnecessary. In a world where brand new horror IPs are being discovered every single day. Do
But
we
being
really need?
buried.
Yeah. Do we really need like? I definitely have not been. I know that it'll reach a larger audience especially when it's released in
Yeah, that's
cinemas
true.
with a name like James McAvoy attached. Of course, I get that, but at the same time, it's like, are we still at the point where we're going, what's that film? It's not in English. I've got absolutely no interest.
Especially with, the amount that we get knocked down about how easy it is to do this. They will showcase, sure, as someone who does any video editing, you've had it appear in all of your social feeds. Oh, look at this. It's a clip from a horror movie we saw at festivals a couple of years ago where they're up on the tower. It's called Up Real High or something like that, where they're stuck on the telephone mast. And it shows a clip of it being by AI dubbed into other languages, and it even does the lip syncing
Yeah,
in a
no, I remember
world
this. Yeah,
where that technology exists. And
exists. Yeah,
also, I think voice acting and localization has come a long way. And I get it. It's really good for accessibility for people who are, will struggle with subtitles because of their vision or just because of the speed that you read or anything like that. I get it. Seeing
mm,
it in the language you speak is a huge advantage. Um, but we've got those accessibility options. Do you need to, you know, take everything from the original and just make it shot for shot? I guess we can fully comment
yeah.
when we've seen it, but I
When
think
we've
what
seen
feels
it,
very
if we see
egregious
it,
is the
yeah,
fact that it's only 2 years, because this one must have barely had the dust settle on it before someone was remaking it.
yeah.
It'd be like you walking out the
And
cinema,
cut.
dinosaurs in a park. I'll make a film about that.
They went
I'll
this. They
call
went
it Jurassic Parks.
and Jurassic Parks. They went on the Speak No Evil, the original. They went and cut. I'd like to purchase that film, or at least the rights to it, from you. You don't know if it's going to be any good yet. I haven't even edited it.
Doesn't
I'm
matter. Remaking
I
it.
I'm remaking it. I reckon it would be great. So there's that. Interesting. Maybe not
I
interesting.
mean, you probably already got it on your list, Ben, but as we've already conjured the spectre of Blumhouse remakes, you'll never guess what they're doing next.
It might well be the next story I've got.
Well,
Is
have a
it?
guess, and maybe it's your news, and maybe it's maybe there's two bits, and we're unaware.
Is it about a certain Blair Witch?
It is about the exact Blair Witch. Yeah, doing that next, aren't
The
they?
exact Blair Witch. So yeah, Blumhouse, they've gone, hang on a minute. What's that? Give us the bloody Exorcist. Give us the bloody Halloweens. That was Blumhouse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give us the bloody Mikey Myers. Also, I'll tell you who else needs a bloody reboot. It's a Blair Witch project. I know the Blair Witch movie, the 2016 one, wasn't massively well received. So,
No
but
Book of
you know,
Shadows, certainly.
no Book of Shadows. But this is
Book
a
of
this is a
Shadows
weird
colon Blair Witch 2.
But this is a weird one, isn't it? Because I feel like the Blair Witch Project, a film that we've mentioned dozens and dozens of times on this show, was a storm in a teacup. It made the most of technology at the time. It struck at the perfect year where people would be like, "Is this bloody real? Is this Blair Witch
Yeah. There's
real?"
enough internet, but not quite enough. Yeah, you're right. Lightning in a bottle, this was perfect.
What did I say? Storm in a teacup. Is that the same? That means like that's like making a
Mountain
mountain
of a
out of a
molehill. So many
mole.
metaphors, everybody. Welcome to the Metaphor Hangout
Lightning in
podcast
a bottle
where
is what I meant, I think. Um, but it's where it gets to the point where I'm like, I can't imagine what world we'd be in where I go to watch a Blair Witch movie and it makes me feel in any way as because I feel like we've kind of already got one, and I think it's The Ritual. I think The Ritual is
yeah,
the Blair Witch movie, like the
yeah,
people lost in the, do you know what I mean? Like um with all the visions and the nightmarish visuals and the
big
I
ghouly
feel like that
monster.
and your ghouly monster. I feel like that is Blair Witch enough. I feel like if you genuinely put a film out there now where you don't see uh anything, people audiences are going to feel hard done by. But then
Yeah.
again, Blair Witch the movie kind of did it, but it was a bit shaky, and I don't just mean the
Yeah, I mean,
camera.
just towards the end a little bit, and maybe we've just again missed another window where you could have had a unique thing. I think just as people live streaming video, from their phones constantly,
Mm.
and just as Instagram Reels and TikToks and Vines and things really took off, maybe you could have done another window of that was very in. But again, I think things like Deadstream and like live streaming things have have
Yeah.
captured that very well as well. So I don't know who's behind it yet. I don't know who's creating it. So maybe you can have someone who's going to have a very creative example. But I
Mm.
feel like
It's
they're up
almost
against
like,
it, I think, to create something that's really unique here.
yeah, and it feels like Lionsgate. Have they just gone right? We're out of ideas here, lads.
So
Uh,
Jigsaw can't carry this studio forever.
yeah. I don't know. I know I'll still watch it because I love the Blair Witch Project. I love the world of it. I
We are a
love the,
podcast, of course you have to.
I love, I love the like time loop, time
Yeah,
stuck in a time loop type thing. And I think that they jumped into that a bit more. I need to go back to the game, because I played a decent chunk of it, but I never finished it. I do need to
still
go
got it
back to it.
installed. I need to finish it.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard it's great, and I enjoy what I played of it. But yeah, I'm sure we'll check that out when it comes out. Interested to see where they go with it. And another franchise is getting a reboot is Scary Movie. Did you hear about this?
I did. I saw. You know what? It's sad because it's kind of instantly made me less excited and disengagement as well because someone's going saw a news story and I'm doing the face ready to do it already. Fans are worried it won't be funny because you can't bloody joke about it. Yeah, and I thought, I forgot that comedy isn't a thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're just not allowed to do the same exact jokes that you did 25 years ago. Not because people will be so offended, because it's fucking boring and you've already done it. You're like, don't
Yeah.
get your excuses in early. Just invest in actually giving people time and material and getting funny writers in to write a good, funny movie. And guess what? It'll be funny. It's not because you can't joke about stuff, because people joke about all kinds of shit. So,
People joke about
like,
all kinds of shit, and I'm laughing my head off all day long,
yeah,
Andy.
yeah,
And
funny stuff all the time. It's just that you can't joke. Not that you can't joke. It's just that now a lot of people will call you a cunt if you tell people off for being gay or having disabilities or being a woman. So you know what? Think of other funny things that you can think of, things that are like
yeah,
that are funny that you can
I
say and
didn't
it'll be
see.
funny.
I actually didn't see any of that. I think I'd only saw like a headline, but I think something like Scary Movie is something that's grown in a lot of people's minds as being a lot better than it actually was. Now, I liked some bits of Scary Movie 1 and 2, and probably even some bits of 3 as well, but I feel like it has to take a lot of responsibility for the cinematic trend that it spawned, which was spoof movies, a lot of which were absolutely dire
Yeah,
disaster movie
I went on a
from the
date to
superhero
see
movie
Meet the
one.
Spartans, Ben. Like,
Oh, I couldn't I literally forgot that existed until you said it. Meet the Spartans. Oh my god. I remember that now. Basically, right, this is what it was. It was here is famous what this is one thing I will always stand against. Spoofs that make fun of things that are far better than them. Like
yeah,
immensely better than them. Like, haha, isn't this? Look at this joke. We're making fun of the movie. I don't know, Titanic or Gladiator or something like that. And I'm like, hang on a minute. No,
really successful, well-made film.
you can't do that. And not. I think not another team movie might have been the only other one which I had a little bit of patience for because the jokes went like this, right? And I think this is for Meet the Spartans as well. They go, remember that character in that film? I remember that character in that film. Yeah, here he is again, but he's massive and fat.
Yeah,
And then people
he's
go,
he's big
that
and
is a
fat, or he's
great
stupid,
laugh.
or
That's a great laugh. Or it's Carmel Electra undressed. I think she was in
Carmen
Meet the
Electra undressed, or is that character, but he's got the farts and he can't bloody stop. He
It is
stinks.
horrific. But looking at the poster for Meet the Spartans, obviously 300, Spider-Man, Transformers, I guess Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Ghost Rider. Do you know what I mean? It's just even even looking at like screenshots is making me upset. Isn't like the main character in it like wasn't he like a British actor? Like
I
someone
don't
who was
know. Like, I
what
feel,
also annoys me is that this guy is ripped, so he's probably had to go through very similar training regimes that the actual people who played the Spartans in
yeah, every
300
morning he's had
did.
to get up, drink a bottle of human growth hormone, and do all sorts of things to himself just to be in a film that we are having such disdain for.
No.
Yeah.
I'm very upset.
So the movie for, I think I can't deal with Ben. I feel like I've come in with a very like angry energy with this piece of news. I I don't want you to come up with excuses. Right? I don't want to hear about this movie in people saying, well, it might not be very good because people are big old crybabies now. Instead, why don't you say, hey, we're doing a new scary movie because there's been like a real big resurgent horror. There's so much new horror content
New
that we
horror
can take
content, yeah.
inspiration from. And we're really excited to write a really funny, because how close horror and comedy are. We're really looking forward to taking the horror tropes and horror like the in language and all those things from horror, from a whole new generation of horror films, and make something that will be laugh out loud funny. But it's not doing that. It's coming in with a, oh, it might not be funny because you all eat shit. Not like we might do a shit job of
Yeah.
writing it. So if that's what you're saying, fucking grow up. Read a book. Get ready.
Grow up, read a book. Remember that comedy has come a long way since Little
Yeah.
Britain.
Also, lots of comedians like I'm not running the numbers on comedy, Ben, but I'm pretty sure. Haven't heard that Edinburgh Festival's cancelled because there's no comedy. Reckon there's
Yeah,
still bloody loads.
bloody loads knocking about in there. So yeah, that is horror news for this week. That's quite a
Oh,
lot.
Ben, before we move on, I got one more
Oh,
piece of horror news
you
for you,
got one more
something you
piece
can
of horror
watch
news?
out for.
God damn.
A big piece of horror news, actually, Ben. I don't
Okay.
know if you have been in your day-to-day life and your listening habits, been listening to a little short audio horror podcast from the George A. Romero Foundation called The
Yes,
Dead.
of course. Oh my God.
I've been listening to it. I've enjoyed some of the stories that have been on there, but I've been listening to the series as it's been progressing, waiting for this moment to come because the latest story, which at time of recording, I believe part one of it is coming out today, this
Yep.
evening,
Yep.
UK time. So by the time by the time this comes out, it should already be available in your feed. A story called Run Rabbit as part of their set in the world of George Romero's of the Dead. Zombies all amongst it. Watch out, everybody. Little anthology stories. And this episode called Run Rabbit is by your friend and mine, Mr. Luke Condor.
Mr. Luke Condor with a K has written a story set in the world of George A. Romero's Of the Dead, and we mentioned Big George last week. Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead.
Says,
I went
says of the
backwards.
Dead after it, he's all in there.
And Luke Condor is now part of that canon, right?
It is. I mean, I haven't listened to it. I mean, if you go on the feed already, even if the episode hasn't dropped at the time you listen to this, because I've got the date wrong, there is a preview of it already there in the
Oh, hell
feed. So
yeah.
you can listen to a couple of minutes, a little tease, and it's already got that Luke Condor magic. So no disrespect to any of the authors that wrote the other stories we've had in it so far. And there's been some interesting takes. There's been a viral research station in space. There's been some family stuff where the woman has had a baby nicked. There has been, all kinds of stuff going on already. Couple of minutes of that Luke Condor. It's already my favorite one, Ben. It's not just because he's my friend. I think it's real good. It's
Oh,
a real good principle. I'm looking
oh
forward
yeah.
to it.
Is there any sort of synopsis based on the
I
story? Do
haven't
we know?
read a synopsis and I don't want to do it a disservice, but
Yeah.
in the short preview, it appears that there is a man, I guess, who's being called Rabbit by a sinister voiceover in an almost jigsaw-esque way, and is being put through a gauntlet where, and in the trailer, you'll hear car alarms being set off and this mysterious voice saying, for every minute that you linger, more car alarms are going to be set off, and that's going to wake this city up and bring its dead
Bloody Wombies,
inhabitants
isn't it?
down on you. So, what a
Hell
principle. I
yeah.
don't know what's going on. Bit of Running Man, Luke Condor, the
Yeah.
Stephen King of his generation, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Oh my
cannot
God, so
wait to hear
excited.
it properly this week. And you should all listen to it too.
Definitely. I will be doing it. I will make sure we share it on our socials when it's live so that everybody can get a chance to listen to it as well, because it's a huge moment for Luke. And also, you know what? Riding on the coattails here, Andy, I don't care. Huge moment for the podcast as well, to have someone affiliated with the show, writing something that is like a literal link to George A. Romero. So
Yeah.
super excited for that, and super proud of you, Luke.
I mean,
I'm bloody proud of you.
those IMDb pages, Ben, will be a click away from George A. Romero himself, me and you.
We sure will. We sure will. I'm
Thanks,
riding on
Luke.
his coattails. Thanks, Luke. Okay, let's talk about what we've been watching for this week. Obviously, we've watched the movie of the week, but I did also watch Damien Omen 2,
Why?
a sequel I've never seen before, Never seen it before.
Don't think I've ever
Uh,
seen it, you know.
yeah,
He's
it's
not Sam
not.
Neill yet, is he?
No, he's not.
He's not a little
He's
boy,
not.
he's a slightly bigger boy, right?
It's. Do you know what the kid who's playing Damien's pretty rubbish in this. I'll be honest. His name is Jonathan Scott Taylor. It's a bit out of order, but I don't care. He's just a bit like. Oh, are you the bloody Antichrist? Are you like in this? He's just like a bit of a annoying knobhead, bit like
This one where he
Werner from Werner's
goes
Watch.
off to college and he doesn't
He's a,
he needs one last class to graduate, but he's been in college for 10 years and then he wanks a dog off into some eclairs and goes out with Tara
Jesus.
Reid by the end. Is that him? Is
Oh
that
no,
Damien the Omen 2?
unfortunately not. It's
That's
he
Van
get
Wilder party liaison, isn't it?
yeah
Aye.
yeah you're right. It is I was thinking what is that, but yeah it is. It's easy to get those two mixed up, He goes off to like some sort of like army boot camp type thing. It's got what's his name, Lance Henriksen in it. There's a good death where someone gets like pecked by crows, Resident Evil style. Oh my God, he's been pecked to death by crows. That's right.
It's the
Uh,
remake. If it's the director's cut, will get up in a bit. Try and get
he'll
you.
get up in a minute. Yeah, he will. Forest, I think that's his
It
name.
is
Isn't it?
Forrest.
Forest. It is Forest. Yeah, it's all right. I kind of watched it because I wanted to get around to the third installment, which is the one with Sam Neill called The Final Conflict, where obviously he's grown up and he's evil and like a politician. I think is that right?
Yeah.
Um, he's a politician.
Unlike a
The
politician
really.
to be evil, isn't it?
I mean,
I
it's
never
yeah,
heard
it's
of it.
completely unbelievable. But to be fair, obviously I've been away, so I haven't seen anything else really. But I am making the next step in gaming, uh, my gaming journey of 2024, and I'm playing Hades now. And you said that you've played that
I have
already,
played
right?
Hades.
So like ancient Greek religion mythology world, sort of like a top-down isometric roguelike action role-playing game where if you die you got to start again. And I've played a lot of things like that recently, but it never it never gets less frustrating or addictive.
Yeah,
But
it
I'm
is
really
very, very addictive game. Lots of sexy cartoon underworld people having a lovely
yeah,
chat and then chopping up some monsters.
chopping up some monsters. Yeah, yeah, I find it pretty difficult so far, but I'm sure I'll get the hang of it eventually. But it was pretty cheap as well when I got it on the PlayStation Store, so I'm sure it's one of those games that's cheap on all platforms now.
Getting your eyes on it before that sequel drops.
Yeah, when is that sequel coming out?
I think it's this year,
It is this
back
year.
end of this
Okay.
year, maybe.
Again, I'm kind of doing that with games. We're getting ready for sequels and DLCs coming out by playing the originals to make sure I'm up to speed. But that's all I've really been watching because I've only really been back a couple of days. So what about you, Andy?
Well, I got a couple of little bits for you, Ben. First, as you've already conjured gaming, I will tell you that I have finally got round to starting the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Oh
Um,
yes,
yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's nice. It's
yes,
very
it is
good.
good. Very
Um,
shiny.
just yeah, lovely and shiny, but mechanically, it's the exact game I remember. Having lots of fun doing the challenges, the little extra bits of content that have been put in for the merchant. It's just a good,
Yeah,
comforting game. Apart from one bit, and I don't know why, because I've finished Resident Evil 4 multiple times now. It always gives me a little bit of discomfort, slight spoilers for Resident Evil 4, everyone, but it's a very old game, so I don't think it matters. Um, Early on in the game, Leon gets knocked out by a Rasputin looking guy and he gets infected with
hmm
one of the last Plagas things. And he's on a ticking clock before he gets turned into one of the Rongans. And you know what? The story plays out. He's fine. To be fair, as far as I recall, he feels a little bit poorly and does a little bit of Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom and like almost strangles Ashley for like two
yeah.
seconds.
2
And
seconds. Yeah.
otherwise, you would not know that there's
No.
anything wrong with him the entire game. And then he just finds a machine that goes, Oh, if you've
Get
put
it
one of
out.
them in, you this gets it out. All right.
Yeah.
Um, as far as I'm, but knowing that that's in him, even though there is no ticking clock in the game, there is nothing that will
Yeah.
happen to me, but it just makes me a little bit uncomfortable, Ben. Just,
Yeah.
I just don't like it. Feels like something's off.
Something's
Um,
gonna happen.
but yeah, I'm enjoying playing that. But I have had a little bit of a religious horror double bill because I also, as well as the First
Lovely.
Omen that we'll talk about in a minute, I got to watch Immaculate. I don't
You
know if you've heard
did.
about this Sydney Sweeney, but apparently
Oh
hottest
yes.
shit in the world right now. She's
The hottest shit in the world yet, because of Immaculate, not because of Madame Web, right?
not because of Madam Web. And the comments mostly that we get about Sydney Sweeney have been core. She's attractive, isn't she? Which is true, but it's not a value because actually, having watched an Immaculate, I mean, spoilers. It's a
So
thin margin. But I
between
think it might have the edge over even this week's film.
wow, okay.
And
I need
I
to,
think the thing
I
that
still haven't
gets
seen
me,
it.
I think the
Sorry,
thing that
go on.
gets me, I'm not going to spoil it because it's
Please
new,
don't.
it's hot and fresh, and it's not a full episode right now. But we're dealing with a prequel here, so inevitably there is a place you have to be at the end. Immaculate, completely different,
Yeah.
completely new, similar levels, not quite so genital focused as the film we're going to be talking about today, but
Mm-hmm.
some really good scenes that made me cringe of injury and peril, not mild peril, severe peril that
Severe
go on
peril,
there.
Jesus.
Um, a nice little pairing for this. It feels like a real deep impact Armageddon situation where two things about
Oh, okay.
having a bloody baby. Is it holy? Is it unholy? You decide.
Yeah.
Um, coming up, I would recommend you watch Immaculate. It's interesting, and I know a really interesting story, a film that had been in development by the team. They were
Yeah.
working on
Yeah.
it, but it was taking time to get off the ground. Sydney Sweeney, all this new power and clout to get in Hollywood. She goes, "Tell you what, mate, I'll get stuck in. I'll come on as a
Yeah.
producer. I'll get this out."
We
Um,
talked about it a little
and
bit
she's
on
done
the
it.
episode with Stu, talking about how it she became like a producer and she did a lot of scouting for the locations and stuff like that. So that's super great to see that it's doing so well and that the reviews have been great as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it when I get a chance to see it. Haven't had a chance yet, but I will. And yeah,
yeah, seen
awesome.
that. And then you've already mentioned it, Ben. I've also done. I did George A. Romero's last movie, Survival of the Dead.
You did. Oh, we talked about that last week, didn't we? You said you were going to what went down?
It does have of the era like little bits of CGI which haven't aged particularly well.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't know this. It's actually really heavily connected to Diary of the Dead. In Diary of the Dead, there is a little throwaway scene where basically some men in the TA come. It's not the TA, but they're just like a national guard type thing.
Yeah.
Um, they come and they meet them in their RV that they're traveling around, and they rob them. Basically, they nick their stuff. And at the time, it felt like a weird, odd scene because it was like,
Mm.
who are these dudes that turn up for a minute, rob them, but don't do anything that's really story relevant apart from come and like nick some of their food
Yeah.
and then just piss off? It's them. And then at the beginning, they addressed the fact that, oh, we got videoed nicking some stuff off these kids, and that went on the internet, and I became really famous. And it's about them as some main characters, um, going
Oh,
to
okay.
classic zombie situation plan. They're going out kind of a ragtag group, including all the characters. They've got Army Man who did the Robin, who's the leader. They've got Man who watches internet comedy videos on his laptop whenever they get a bit of internet signal. That's his character thing.
I
They
thought you were gonna
have
say there was a character called Man then, not a character called
they
Man.
might as well be called Man. There is a character called Boy in it. That's the character's name who they just meet.
Who are you
Or the
then, boy?
kid.
Don't tell me your name. I'm not interested. You're not gonna last long enough
Um,
for me to
so
care.
there's Boy, there's Man who watches comedy videos on his laptop. There is an Italian man. and woman who is her thing is that she's the woman of the group whose literal introduction is her openly mazzing off while guy is watching his videos, literally just hanging out there. And he's like, and
Sounds
it is addressed.
chaotic.
One of the guy comes over and goes, "Oi, fucking pack that in." And she's like, "Well, I would if you were any good at sex, but actually, nah."
It's
Um,
absolutely add his
and
number, don't she?
they
Yeah.
they follow the classic zombie plan of go to an island because obviously zombies can't get to an island.
Yeah.
And it's an island that's being sort of kept clear of zombies originally. It appears that every inhabitant of this island is from Ireland, but not that one because it's just off the coast of America rather than it being set in, you know, the island in Europe.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, graphics are a little dated at times. It feels like it has some leans towards comedy, but not quite so many steps as Zombieland, and they aren't comedy actors that are in it. Um,
Mm.
but it's got some interesting takes in it. I'm glad I've finally seen this one. It's yeah, it's definitely of a budget of its time, but I'm
Yeah.
glad I saw it.
I
But
need
that,
to.
apart
I
from
think I
that,
want to. Sorry, go on.
no, apart from that, that's the film of the week. But you want to check that one out?
I want to check that one out because I've definitely seen it before. I want to go back to it, and I think yeah, we should definitely get Land of the Dead in the schedule
Yeah, get
for
Land
that
of the
one.
Dead in the hopper, and we should get that
Yeah.
watched.
Film of the week then, which is The First Omen, a 2024 American supernatural horror film directed by Arkasha Stevenson. It stars Nell Tiger, Tawfeek Barhom, some great names in this cast. Sônia Braga, Ralph, I'll say Ineson, Bill Nighy. Difficult surnames as well in the latter part of it.
Take a
It
run at 'em.
is a prequel to The Omen, the 1976 movie, and the sixth film in the Omen franchise. The plot follows an American woman sent to a church in Rome who uncovers a sinister conspiracy to bring about the birth of the Antichrist. That's incredibly sinister.
Damien, not me, as you alluded to at the start, because I
Not
was
you, not
not
you.
born in 1971. Not that
No,
old.
you weren't. You weren't. You're not that old at
Other
all.
than that, we're very similar.
And you're not the Antichrist. So in terms of ratings for the First Omen, 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes, 81% audience score, 70% critics score. 3.4 on Letterboxd, and some choice reviews there. And do you know what? I struggled to find many negative reviews on there that gave me a little bit of a laugh. You know what I mean? Most of them were positive. So David Sims says, quite excellent. If Ralph Ineson ever walks up to me with fear in his eyes, I know I'm in trouble. 4 stars. MJ says, feels strikingly classic and modern at the same time. It's also refreshing to witness a big studio allow a filmmaker to experiment with such artistic freedom to this degree. 4.5 stars. Trace Thurman says, please give Arkasha Stevenson all the horror movies to direct. 4 stars. Don't give her all to direct. She ain't got time. You know, ain't got time.
Yeah,
Only enough hours in the day. You don't want to direct all the horror films.
too much of a
Stressful.
good thing. Ah.
Halili says, Halili. If I had a nickel for every pro-choice non-horror movie that's come out this month, I'd have 2 nickels. Four
Oh,
and a
we've
half
also
stars.
seen Immaculate then, haven't they?
They've also seen Immaculate. 4.5 stars. To be fair, the fact that people are rating it 4 stars, 4.5 stars says a lot about this film. Bearing in mind, I kind of thought, horror prequel. I kind of know what to expect. But I don't know. This
Yeah, I
kind
went
of
in with the bar set pretty low on this one, I must say. But some interesting things to talk
although
about,
the
certainly
trailer
visually.
although the trailer did look pretty good, didn't it? It kind of had that sort of classic horror flavor, and I felt like it that definitely comes across in the film as well. Like it's got that sort of vibe, even though it is set obviously in the 70s. There's something about it with those sort of like slow zooms and like the smash zooms and the visuals and the soundtrack and just
Yeah.
everything kind of just it's a real like homage to the original and to films
Yeah.
of that era.
It's definitely a films of the era thing, and I don't want to conjure giallo imagery just because people speak Italian in it.
Yeah.
But it does have some of those dreamlike qualities as well, particularly in some of the nightmarish scenes, where later they're looking at the ceiling and just going mad, looking at pictures of
Yeah.
people being touched up by devils.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously Giallo, Rosemary's Baby is evident here as well. Um, I guess like sort of classic horror movies from sort of the late 60s into early 70s. Don't Look Now, I feel like there were some sort of vibes of that
Yeah,
as well. Um, but yeah, it was surprisingly like really well made. And of course, there is a scene which feels like an homage to the movie Possession, which we covered. I think it was me and Luke actually covered that on the show.
yeah,
Not too long ago, but
yeah.
still, I think.
Possession definitely, like particularly when someone's just completely losing their mind over something that only they can see, right? Like there's
Yeah,
definitely and that facial acting that we get from it as well.
and
Again, common
especially
across both this and Immaculate as well.
yeah, but also the fact that we've seen a lot of kind of possession acting recently in new films, The Exorcist Believer, Late Night with the Devil, for example. It just felt so unique. It was kind of like a combination of the way it was shot, but also the performance, as we've mentioned from the main star Nell Tiger Free, and this is like a really great lead performance as well. Like one which could easily slot into standard fare, but kind of sets itself apart from any familiar plots. And she was in Game of Thrones, wasn't she?
Who was she in Game of Thrones?
Miss Myrcella Batharian.
Uh,
Baratheon.
so yeah, so she is Joffrey's sister.
Okay. Old Joffrey, eh?
Yeah,
Joffrey's. But yeah, obviously, I would say unrecognizable. Not just because the fact in Game of Thrones she had blonde hair, and in this film she's
and
got
was a
dark
kid.
hair and was a kid.
Yeah,
And was a kid,
um,
yeah, not just that.
yeah, because you forget Game of Thrones started a fair old bit ago now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, really, really interesting, and it feels like we have been in not just this last year or so, but you go back the last 5 years or so, we have had a wealth of religious religious horror, right? The devil's making a comeback in a big way, not just Late Night with the Devil, but devils and demon possession. So you already conjured um the Exorcist remake and so on. We have an Omen prequel, but even before that, we had the Pope's Exorcist. He's amongst it recently as well. All sorts of possession movies and the
Yeah.
demonology that comes along with that. Yeah, it's been really making a comeback. We had Pray for the Devil, which I think got a really
Oh yeah.
short cinema run. Um,
Yeah, I didn't see that.
it's on Netflix now. I think it's all right. I quite like that one.
Okay. Okay. Might need to check that out. Um, but yeah, like part of this, you kind of think, I kind of know what to expect. I kind of know how this is going to play out. But it definitely seemed to have something very different about it. The visuals were great, and in some films, sometimes I think, oh, that's a good shot. I wish it would linger on it just a little bit longer. I feel like this film knows exactly how long to linger on certain shots, and even so-called jump scares don't feel cheap. They feel like genuine, and they usually take place in a situation where perhaps you feel a bit safe. You're like, I feel we're in a museum in the middle of the day. Sun's pouring in. I feel safe as can be. When all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, there's a big scare.
Yeah, and
Um,
also don't feel safe anywhere in this film, Ben, because it feels like the devil could have got a job for evil spy organization Spectre because the devil, there's a few things he's good at, Ben. As they say in whatever the quote is from, the devil's best trick was convincing people he didn't exist. The devil's second best trick is taking someone out with an accident just before they reveal that the devil's behind it.
right.
Because it's like, I can't tell you who's behind it, I'll be killed. Go on, tell us, it's really important. Okay, it was a pipe
Bang.
comes, you get hit by a car.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. I don't understand, right? So this feels like a real Ozymandias scenario in Watchmen, where the plan is, even though we're the good guys, the plan is we're going to do something terrible in order to have faith put back in us. And I'm like,
Maybe the
yeah,
church. A little bit of advice for you. You know, all those people that are having big old protests because there are not fair wages and things like that. Maybe use your massive power and political influence as a church to do something like that, rather than try and get an antichrist to be born so people come to church a bit more, or pep up the songs
yeah.
a bit, put some happier
Oh
ones
yeah.
in.
Pep up the songs a bit. Get bloody get
Elton John to do one.
I don't know. Literally, my head was going Lil Wayne, T-Pain, like literally just go through rappers like that.
I'm talking about an all-time banger though. So, you know, for
Yeah, that's true. And
example,
it was the 70s as well.
for the 70s, Elton John, peak of his powers, think about what he did for promoting that Saturday night was all right for fighting. If he'd done a song to follow up that as a Sunday night is wicked for church. If he'd done that,
You say that, but Church got some banging songs. Like, what? Give me joys in my heart, give me prayer. Give me joy in my heart, I
yeah,
pray. I butchered that.
that's an
That's a
absolute
banger.
all-timer.
That's like, come on. But I know what you mean. In church, they rarely pull that one out. That's
Oh, they
usually
always
just
do
in
the
primary
droney
school.
ones. When you go to a
The
church wedding,
journey.
when you go to a church wedding, Ben, I don't mind doing a join in of a singing. I respectfully stay quiet during prayers. I don't sit there going boring just so I don't do them. But
Ooh.
I do a song. Give me a blast of all things bright and beautiful. But
All
sometimes they do
things
the ones that are
bright
absolute
and
dirges.
beautiful.
Naff.
Yeah, that's
Do
it.
the good ones. Do your biggest hits. Don't play your album tracks, Jesus. Do your get the new ones out.
Get the new ones in.
Get the all timers out. Get the whole world in his hands. Get that going.
Also, right, how have they just got access to a horny devil? And I don't mean that in a just a nickname for him. He's literally a horny devil. How can they not just use the access they've got to that horny devil to convince everybody that the devil exists? Why do they need like a baby in the form of the Antichrist to turn up?
just just video him hitting people with his car all the time, and then we go, look at this.
Maybe just get him going. I'm the bloody devil, right? And I hate you lot. So if you go to church, I'd hate that. And they go,
Yeah,
you know, I'm going to church because of that. Why do they need
the
him to?
devil
Why
like
do they need a
Piers Morgan.
baby?
Give him a chat show, and he goes, "Oh fuck this guy! I'm going to do the opposite to what he
Because
wants."
also, right, the Antichrist, Damien, by his very nature, commits all these acts of murder and like horrible stuff, but like kind of secretly. He doesn't go out there and go, I'm the bloody Antichrist, like a wrestler, like he's some sort of persona. I'm the Antichrist.
He comes out on the mic and does like a promo bit.
He kills people in secret. So like no one's finding out that the Antichrist exists apart from like fanatics, and then no one's believing the
Yeah,
fanatics. Like
the
what's he get?
devil, the devil's rocking round the Vatican like the Grinch, like knocking like change out of like beggars' bowls, and like nicking
It
like
seems
big lollipops from
unnecessary.
kids.
I was also worried that this film is going to do that thing where it went, you know, this prequel about Ali Omen came to exist. Yeah.
It
Well,
just was.
actually, just was it existed in this girl initially. I was thinking, oh, don't you dare. Don't you dare do this. You
Yeah,
can't do this to me. Um, but luckily it kind of did but didn't. It was like a slightly different origin. But this is the thing, like, how do we make an omen? Well, first of all, we've got to make Omen's mum. That's what we got to do first. All that time ago, we got to make an Omen's mum. Okay, all right, okay. This
I mean,
seems like a very long process.
it's a very leveling thing though, Ben, because obviously lots of couples around the world do struggle to conceive and have a baby. Looks like
Yeah.
the devil's got some solidarity with him because he's just about, as we learn in the film, he's stuck in fucking loads of goes in the bit
Mm.
where our main character goes into the Resident Evil like evidence room towards the end and just finds all the clues in the backstory. It's fucking Umbrella, wasn't it? But um, he's took him ages, like so many goes to have a daughter, and then when he's finally got one that's all right, he goes, well, I'm gonna have to have a son with you and just roll the dice, even though I'm the devil and I've got tons of magic, make my horrible hand and tongue appear from all over the place.
But I also don't
Um,
understand like because making the Antichrist in order to get more people to go to the church, and then they send him off to like just live with like in America, like
I
with a
guess that's because they've
politician.
sent him to live with an ambassador so we can fuck more stuff up.
Got you. But
Like
still,
if he'd just been adopted by someone who runs the local bakery, and then sometimes they'll get 13 buns instead of 12. He's like, that's unlucky.
dude, I
There's no
need to.
raisins in this scone.
What are we looking at? So yeah, we already mentioned the cast. Nell Tiger free plays. Uh, Nell Tiger free
Plays the
plays
devil's mum.
Margaret, Devil's mum. Spoiler. Ralph Ineson, Father Brennan, Sônia Braga as Sister Sylvia. Basically, right, the least nun-like of nuns you'll ever come to meet. Right? No, that's not her. Sônia Braga's older lady.
That's the old lady. That's Mother
Who am I
Superior,
thinking
right?
of? I'm thinking of Maria Caballero is Luz,
Yeah, Luz.
Margaret's roommate. Uh, then we got Tawfeek Barhom is Father Gabriel. Uh, oh yeah, that dude. Bill Nighy is Cardinal Lawrence, and then Charles Dance we get in the sort of opening sequence
Cardinal
as well.
Lawrence is the same character that Bill Nighy plays in Underworld, where he's just a mean old vampire
Yeah.
doing his scoffing.
Scoffing man. It kind of starts on a little bit of like an upbeat sort of. It's not like we don't get like the Omen theme or anything like that. It starts on quite an upbeat, and again we've got like the uh older style like title sequence and stuff like that that kind of makes it feel like a classic horror movie as well, and kind of like these sort of shots of the environment as well. And basically the opening scene is
Mr. Blue Sky, and Charles Dance is just walking his way to church.
Charlie Dance and it's Father Brennan presses Father Harris about this occult conspiracy, and this is when Charlie Dance gives him a photograph of a baby with the name Skiana inscribed on the back. And it's all
And
done in
he's like,
secret. It's all done in the confessional booth, isn't it?
yeah, they're having a little confessional, and yeah, Father Brennan, so innocent here, is basically saying with his, you know, the dad in The Witch, a bloody devil monster in the Pope's
Literally the
Exorcist. That's
most
three times that's come up now.
iconic voice like in horror currently. I think every time you hear his voice, or even if you hear someone's voice that sounds similar to his, it kind of just makes you go, "Oh, is
It's
he in
him.
this as well?" And it's not.
He's
And the
changed
fact that
sides this time. He's a lovely priest, not a devil or a
yeah,
monster.
he's a lovely fella, isn't he?
And he's
He's a
going,
lovely.
here, Charles Dance, what's happened to this? He goes, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll confess, as this is confessional. Don't want to waste your time. There's actually a big cult in the church to do the plan that Andy and Ben already spoke about.
Yeah.
Um, to make people come to church, not by pepping up the songs, but by making the devil real. Fair enough. So actually, I just need to get far away from this and get it off my conscience. And unfortunately, there are some builders, cowboy builders, carelessly putting
Has
in a
this
stained
ever
glass
been
window.
more obvious? Like, this is the thing, right? I think in the Omen movies or any movie like this, it's the shock of like this happening. It's the fact that like we see some builders and then maybe like 40 minutes later, the accident happens and we're like, oh my God, yeah, the builders. This is like the most like telegraphed thing ever. Like we see this sort of
Chekhov's builders, that's the
stained
van.
glass window being pulled up. Then even when they're having this conversation, like all you can hear is the noise of the stuff happening around them. And I'm like, just
Good,
bloody
yeah,
move
pass it
away from the
carefully.
building. Yeah.
Oi, David, don't have 3 beers before you start working.
Oh, now you've said that, I'm having 4. All right.
Strap those pipes down proper. You don't want them to fall off because for some reason we haven't put any scaffolding up and this church is still in full operation.
Yeah.
So he steps outside and he goes, actually, I just want to get away for this and forgive me for what I've done. He goes, you're right. Turns around and then we see like a little shard of glass. The tears from heaven itself fall past and they have a quick look up. It's bloody pipe going through that stained glass face there. And then after a little bit of slow motion, it's a bit like one of those flash scenes or like the Quicksilver bit from the Quicksilver bit from Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
Like they've all come together, and then all of a sudden we go up to normal speed. A pipe just falls through him. He had like a little bit of a squish sound. And it's like everyone looks
Oh,
around.
he's all right, actually. You know
He
what?
goes,
He's
"You're all
fine.
right." He goes,
You,
"Yeah, I'm absolutely
I'm
fine." And then he turns away
absolutely
and
never
starts
better.
walking off. And then Ralph Ineson goes like, uh, uh, he's trying to like, get his attention. Like, do you
Hang on
just
a minute.
And what's happened there, Ben, is he's been the cable from Ghost Chipped, where he's been chopped in such a way that he hasn't noticed for a bit. But as soon as that line, he's been like the Resident Evil laser grid, it's got him, and he's just fine for a
Yeah,
minute. And then all of a
until he
sudden,
realizes
actually, the back of your head's been piped off, hasn't it, Charles?
he's been sliced.
And he falls down dead. In many ways, though, got his wish. He has got away from the terrible guilt he's been feeling.
He's got away from the terrible guilt. It's been alleviated. Um, yeah, but there we go. That's the opening sequence. So it's to be expected. An opening sequence to a movie like this needs to have somebody die at the hands of the devil doing his evil deeds,
Because he's
right?
basically told on him that the devil, he hates a couple of things. He hates the good bit of church, not the bad bit that actually conspires to bring him to life. The good bit of church, can't stand it, doesn't like the songs, finds it boring, hates it. He wants people to go to church because then he's right out of luck. Doesn't like it at all. The
Yeah.
other thing he hates, Ben, a bloody grass. He will not. If you tell on the
Everyone hates
devil,
the bloody grass, don't they?
if you tell on the devil, it's going to make it worse. If you went to school with the devil and he bullied you, you better just to keep your head down. Because if you tell, if he gets pulled into head of year's class and get to do lines or something like that, it's going to get so much worse. You'll find your
Yeah.
Instagram will be commenting on it. He'll be doing all sorts to you. Give you a dead leg under the desk. He'll
Oh,
pretend he wants to help you, and so the
yeah.
teacher sits you next to each other. And he'll get you even more. He'll get his compass out of his pencil case, stab you in the arm all lesson. And when you shout, you'll get in trouble for it.
Bloody hell. What's his bloody problem? This
Yeah.
bastard. Yeah.
Controversial hot take, devil, bastard.
What an absolute bastard. Sick of him.
To be fair,
Sick
his
of his
parents aren't
behavior.
married,
Okay. There we go.
even though he is
Uh,
his own dad.
what's the?
Um,
He's his own dad. Bloody hell! It's a Jeremy Kyle episode waiting to happen here, isn't
the devil.
it? uh, yeah. So what do we get next? What's the
So
next bit?
next thing we know, we nip over to Rome. It's 1971, and
Oh wait. So is this the same year? Does this all happen the same year?
I
Yeah.
don't remember seeing a year at the
A name.
beginning.
So this could be like a month ago, a year ago. It feels like it happens quite close because
Yeah,
Ralph
and
is still on
I'd say
his.
the description that old Charlie Dance gave, we show, and I find this a very disturbing image. They showed a rich. Oh yeah, we got some bird knocked up by the devil ages ago, and it looked like this. She had her hands tied down. It's quite like a violent sexual scene where, but horrible
Hmm.
black cloth over her face, which is very
Yeah.
tight, so it gets sucked into her mouth when she's
Yeah.
breathing like a bin
That was a
bag.
super creepy visual though. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a bin bag. That's
like
what
a
I look
bin
like with a
bag
bin bag on my
from
face. Yeah.
old yellow face from Black Christmas. They do the same thing to
Yeah.
her, but it's silk,
Exactly.
not bin liners.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you see this person being, as we later learn, impregnated by the devil that this cult gets up to, and that's what he
Yeah.
admits. But then
What's
we
kind of good
fast
is that
forward.
in these scenes, sorry Andy, in these scenes we don't like see too much. It's all kind of like um subtly suggested like what's happening. We don't even really get a good look at anything in particular. In this scene or later on, we kind of get close-ups of hands and teeth and eyes, but we never really see and I think that makes sense. There's even a scene later where we see something burning, which again, I think it's done really well. Uh yeah. So I guess you were about to say that Margaret Dano travels to Rome in 1971. It's all kicking off. There's like protests in the street, as we mentioned, like people campaigning for workers' rights and stuff like that. And then Margaret arrives at the Vizardelli Orphanage, and when she turns up, Mr. Bill Nighy himself, Cardinal Lawrence, turns up to escort her back there, and then she's like introduced to everyone. All of the old bloody nuns back in the habit.
And they're really nice. They're lovely, these nuns. They go, oh, yeah, looking forward to you coming and doing your vows over here. Bill Nighy, I think, knew her since she was a baby because she's also adopted. Don't think about that too much. She's not Chekhov's orphan. So she's adopted. Um, she got brought up in an orphanage. She's always been associated with the church. She's getting ready to take her vows, and to show my ignorance of religion here, but this is the thing that nuns do, right? You can be like a practice nun for a little
Yeah.
bit, and then you basically have a god wedding where you get married to God, get you dressed up in ever such lovely clothes,
Taking
ever
the
such fine
veil. Is
silks.
that right? What it's called? Taking the veil?
I
I think
don't
it's
know.
called that. Taking
I
the veil.
couldn't
I mean, they
correct
do.
you. I couldn't
They
correct you
do.
if you were wrong, Ben.
They do mention that. I think they say a couple of times, like taking the veil. But when I took the veil, and are you going to take the veil? Are you?
So
Yes.
they get married, and then you can basically have that transition to being from being. There are no nuns that are in the middle. You're either a young person who's not quite a nun but thinking about it, or an old lady. There are no nuns that are about 30 to 40.
Yeah.
You
That's
go
exactly
from
how it
20
works.
to 65.
Yeah.
So no, like they're there, but as you say, um the cardinal actually gives a little example as they're driving. Oh, be careful of these protests, and they go, oh yeah, it's because really bad working conditions and wages are really poor and working conditions are really bad. Um, oh, but I tell you, it's not all about their problems. They ain't coming to church enough. They don't turn to the church for guidance anymore.
Mm.
So fuck them, I guess. That's not help with their problems. So come on, and you'll get ready for your
Fuck 'em, I guess.
yeah. So you'll get they let's go and get you ready for your vows. And she does a bit of teaching in the orphanage, except for one little girl that she meets whose name is uh Carlita,
Mm.
who is kept separate from the other orphans because, and I say this the nicest possible way, she's a bit bitey, isn't she?
She's a bit
Bit,
bitey.
bit bitey and
Doesn't she lick?
licky.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
bit
gives her a
bitey
lick
and
on the
licky.
face.
Gets put in this room called the bad room, which is basically like the chokey from Matilda, but like
Yeah,
slightly bigger, I guess. Um,
yeah.
Margaret gets introduced to Luz, who is like her um roommate. There's actually a pretty good scare in the when she first goes to this place because she's like praying. This is where she's staying before she goes to the orphanage. Um, or during?
I think it's
Is that
just
where
her
she
room,
lives?
a
It's
room
just her
attached to
room.
the orphanage. Yeah,
That's right, yeah. So she's like praying, and then her habit is like hanging up. That's what it's called, isn't it? Hanging up on the wall. And then this is a pretty good scare where like the sort of the curtain flows in front of the habit, and then suddenly it's like an actual nun, almost like a Valak, isn't it?
oh, it's Buddy Valak. She always was. She's been here as well. No, it's just your super attractive nun roommate Luz.
It's just your super attractive nun roommate, Luz, who
Luz
is
in a lovely party dress. You could just been out down appearing in Ibiza 71. I've been off basically a massive rave,
yeah.
having a crack at this body before I get
That's
married
what
to
she
God.
says, isn't it? She does say that. She goes, before I get married to God, I'm basically just taking my body out for a spin. Just taking a body out for a spin. Imagine if you worded anything like that. Where are you going? Just taking a body out for a spin, you
Yeah,
know?
well, I'm
Just
thinking about getting married to God. So before we do that, I'm heading out to sex some people up and have a few tinnies.
that's what she's gonna do. How come? Right, so then so she does suggest to Margaret to take her out to a disco, to a discotheque. Why does she wear a wig when she does this? Because she don't want to be recognized. Why did Margaret wear a wig then?
Maybe she only got one.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to wear this wig so I don't get recognized. No one realizes I'm a nun. But you are going to look exactly the same, but with your hair down, and you're going to wear this incredibly revealing outfit. And
Incredibly revealing outfit, literally made of two strips of material. Like it's like a dress that you'd wear to the Oscars, not from a 1971 disco.
we're going to go to this 1971 disco in a time machine because it's just going to be like an episode of Skin. It's going to be like an episode of Skins in there with rave music, flashing lights, and I don't know, drugs. I don't know, some sort of drug.
Yeah,
Uh, and then we're going to introduce you to these two fellers, these two Italian fellers. And for sake of this film not having too many subtitles in it,
they
we're
will
going to
speak
say, "Can
English.
you speak English?" Because we prefer to. Because when we get drunk, it's actually hard to speak Italian.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
goes,
we'll
"Do you?"
speak
They
English
come over
for
and an
plot.
Italian say, "Do you speak it? Do you speak Italian?" They go, "Only English when we're out on the source." Actually, because thankfully I speak the Queen's English.
Yeah. So one of the guys sort of like dancing with Luz, and then the other one is kind of like getting to know Margaret, and they're having a nice kind of like he seems like a nice guy. They're having a chat. What are they talking
At
about?
first, I feel like it's going to be like they're going to be bummed out because the Luz and her dance partner for the evening, they're having a great time. It feels like the others are sitting down. It's going to be a right misery
Yeah.
session, but actually they do get on well. And then before you know it, they're raving up as well. Born Slippy
Mm.
comes on, and they're having a
Born Slippy comes on, they touch each other's face. Yeah,
Two
it's very
Unlimited. Love this
intense.
one.
Yeah, and then it quickly blacks out, and this blackout is it represents like a little bit of a passage in time. But when she wakes up, there's a really weird little scene, weird little shot of a spider, isn't there?
Yeah,
And,
horrible white spiders that we get.
horrible, horrible white creepy spider, and like this is obviously representing something. But you know, this is a great shot as well with Margaret kind of lying on her sweaty duvet, with her hair all splayed out, almost like you know, like some sort of weird spider in itself. And
Yeah,
she looks, let's be honest here, Andy, no disrespect intended, she looks absolutely hanging, battered.
she is
She has
hanging,
been,
isn't she?
she's been on the sauce, and like the fact that she goes, "Oh, do you never usually drink that much?" She's like, "No, I never drink." How can you go from never drinking to necking shots like it's no one's business? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, she was sipping the
literally
shot.
on an episode of Ibiza Uncovered, absolutely munted. Um,
Absolutely battered. And you know what I mean? At the same time, you know when you just feel like you stink as well. That's what she looked like.
oh God,
And
you wake up
I was
after a
thinking,
skin fall, bloody hell, still like a fucking ferret. The
Luz,
worst.
Luz looks like fresh as a daisy. She's looking absolutely top notch. She's loving it.
She's
Um,
got the technique though. She's probably had a pint of water before she went out, one before she goes to bed.
yeah. So she basically Margaret's got no memory of what happened, and Luz sort of suggests, "Oh, you were pretty much ready to go at it with that feller, but I
Oh,
pulled you
you
away just in time because
feels
you were
like
like,
you've always got that mate, haven't you? Like, obviously not anymore. Don't go out so much anymore. But you know, in the old days when someone was going to go in with someone and you're like, you're going to regret this. I have to, like, you're going to hate
yeah,
me for it. You're going to
but you're
absolutely
gonna hate
rage
me
at me
for it
for
now."
this,
Yeah,
but you'll thank me in the morning. I've got to stop. And sometimes you've got to take a bullet and you've got to have um someone banging on at you all the way home.
which is good because if you awake somewhere and you got no idea where you are and you're with bloody Pablo or Paolo, whatever his name was, sorry, misremembered. You'd be fuming, especially when you got
It's
to get a
Paolo.
taxi. Especially when you got to get a taxi home and do the walk of shame. You know.
Yeah. And you know, you've all been there. If you don't know someone that you've had to do that for, then it's you that people have to do it for, isn't it? So we've all been there. But yeah, Luz had brought her brought her home, um, and you know but you know we've all had horrible flashbacks after a bad night out where it's been a heavy one. Unfortunately, she starts having the worst flashbacks ever, having horrible demonic memories during a field trip. Oh, actually,
Yeah.
is this before or after she sees the baby being born? And I think that's one of the
Yeah.
first
So
really graphic scenes.
there are a few weird moments where she's wandering around the orphanage, seeing various things happen. She sees something at night where like Carlita is being like restrained, and then the nuns kind of like slam the door on her. And then yeah, this moment what you said where so at the orphanage they bring in some mothers who obviously want to give up their kids, and they go through the birthing process, and obviously the kids go directly to the orphanage, for like
Good
down and
work
out,
cutting out the middleman.
cutting out the middleman, exactly, go straight to the source, for mothers who I don't want to just assume these people are down and out. That's not really what they kind of say. They kind of just explain that obviously this orphanage is harvesting not harvesting children in that way, but in one way of a sense. But yeah, she witnesses a birth which is quite violent and jarring, and there's like restraints, but then there's like an injection of some sort of painkiller or something like that. And the pregnant woman starts laughing, and then
On the bloody gas and air. Whey!
she's on the bloody gas now. She was in agony seconds ago. Now she's having a right laugh. And we do see, and this is interesting. You know what I mean? Some other films might be like a bit like we're not gonna show any of this, but this film is quite good at showing you just little slivers of things, and it's kind of represented by Margaret kind of like moving her neck and craning her neck to try and
Yeah.
like see what's happening, but we kind of just
Gives a
see what
look.
she sees. Gives a look, so we don't quite see the exact moment of birthing, but we do see like a creepy, very viscous looking hand coming out.
Yeah, a big scabby looking horrible demon arm coming right out of right out of the old vagina, right where you would normally see, to be
Yeah.
honest, quite a shocking sight for many, I'm sure, seeing
Does she
like a
faint?
baby
Does
being born. And but
yeah.
you've steeled yourself to watch a baby being born. And what's happening there is what you'd be very surprised to see. I think top three things that you wouldn't be expecting to see come out of there. Big old devil's arm.
Yeah, I think any arm that wasn't a tiny baby's little arm would be
Yeah.
quite
Top
confusing to
three.
see.
Baby, like not a baby, but Toblerone, Sony Trinitron 21-inch
Umbrella.
widescreen TV,
Umbrella.
um,
Wii
Devil's Arm.
Wii Nintendo Wii remote.
Oh, what if the nunchuck's not attached? That's still to come.
That's coming second. Yeah, these would all be very, very scary, and I feel like I would
But I think
faint.
the top one, though, definitely horrible Devil's Arm that comes out and like,
Yeah.
what does it do? Does it just reach for a flip of the V's, or
I
what
think it
does
just
it?
comes out. I don't think it's really reach. It's just coming out, and
It's
it's
like,
and
whoa.
again, are we supposed to believe that this is like because at this point, spoil we will spoil this obviously, but at this point, um, Margaret's not long. Oh wait, does this happen before or after she goes out on the Raz?
I think this is just after she's gone out on the
Just
Raz.
after. Yeah, so maybe
Probably
this
still
could be.
hanging. That's why. You know what it is. You see someone how like chowing down to a breakfast, and you need that breakfast. But if you see it, makes you a bit gippy at first, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's got the
She's
beer
probably
fear.
she's probably still a bit hanging, and then you just see an arm coming out of someone's crotch, makes you feel right wampy. So she properly eye roll faints.
Yeah, she eye roll faints, and I can't blame her because she's had a tough time. I think at one point as well, even like all the little girls are like singing at her, and she's just like clearly steaming, and she's like, "Oh bloody hell, I'm absolutely." And they go, "You're right. I'm just tired."
Yeah, so she is just tired, doesn't want any of it. But it does continue to progress, and then she does feel like Carlita, who we see getting put in the bad room, who is always segregated from the other girls, and the nuns try and keep her out. She has a bit of
Yeah.
sympathy for her, and she tries to spend a bit more time with her and bring her out of herself.
Mm. Now, this
Um,
girl does do properly cliche drawings. However, her behavior isn't like a cliched, difficult child in a horror movie who does these bad drawings. She's actually quite, she's still like got quite a lot of personality. She's still open to bonding with Margaret and kind of letting her in and laughing and joking, and she seems open to like being helped. But yeah, she does draw these creepy things, some of which are a person floating above other girls, like a girl with a baby in her belly, stuff like that.
yeah, and she drew a picture of a pregnant woman being restrained. That was one
Yeah.
of her latest. That's one of her latest art numbers.
Mm.
Um, and she keeps trying to have these conversations. Margaret keeps talking to Carlita and spending time with her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess this is one of the. I felt this was a little bit of fan service to the original film. They're all outside having a lovely time in the playground.
Oh yeah,
All the
definitely.
girls and she's trying to get sort of Carlita involved in it. This troubled
Hmm.
child. She gets her involved in a game of, I guess, super Ring Around the Roses, right? Where they're
Yeah.
standing in the middle and all these kids are going around in
Mm.
coordinated concentric circles. It's
Just
like La
before
La
that,
Land.
though, just before that, she interrupted this nurse, nun, Angelica. I didn't know, and Angelica appeared in the film before this. The
I
nun
did
who's
find it. I like.
I didn't know who she was.
I felt I took my eyes off it for a second, and then Angelica was a character that we were supposed to know, Sister Angelica.
Yeah, it was very confusing because I feel like I didn't recognize her, but maybe everyone's kind of dressed the same. Maybe it was easy
Yeah,
to miss her.
but before you know it, before you even realised who Angelica is in the film, you look up to the top of the stairs, and she's saying, um, "This is all for you." A quote that
Yeah,
would be used in the original film to talk
yeah.
about Damien.
I thought she was just a little bit wet. I didn't realize that perhaps she doused herself in some sort of flammable liquid at this point. But yes,
Fortunately,
she
though, for
has.
her, she has. She's not showered in water like regular people would. Unfortunately, she showered in the devil's water, aka petrol.
Yeah.
Um, and
Devil's water. Is
she
that a devil's
burns.
water there? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, she burns herself up, catches fire at the same time, hanging herself. A little bit
That is like
overkill.
that's like I gotta make sure this gets done. I'm doing
Either would
both.
suffice. It's a hat on a hat, that is.
Yeah, it is.
So she
But
sets
yeah,
herself on
so obviously
fire,
this is
and
a
then
pretty horrific visual, and the fact that she like smashes through the window as well is obviously very reminiscent of the original as well. It's a homage to that particular moment, isn't it?
yeah. So that's obviously you wouldn't know what to do because there's screaming kids everywhere. You're still hanging from.
Oh my God, I can't think of a worse like hangover day for this to be happening.
Do you
Absolutely
think
horrific.
seeing someone burn themselves and hang themselves might actually make you feel better because you actually got a real crisis to deal with? If all you've got to do
Oh,
is, maybe get round Tesco's, you're going to real drag your feet and feel bad about it. But something
yeah,
really serious that happened, and you probably just, the adrenaline probably sort you right out. So in many ways,
yeah, that's true.
thanks.
Cheers, thank you. Thanks for doing that, Angelica. Character who I'm pretty sure I haven't noticed before now. Apologies if she had a huge scene earlier. Um, so what happens next? I think
Father
obviously
Brennan turns up, catches her for a
Father
little
Brennan turns up. Yeah,
tete-a-tete,
a lovely little tete-a-tete.
and he says in
Um,
his lovely deep voice, "Hello." Um,
Hello, Margaret. That's actually terrible. Hello,
yeah, I won't
Margaret.
do
I
his
can do it.
accent. Um,
Hello there, Margaret.
yeah, he comes and says, "Right, listen, he's like the Nick Fury of this film, except he's come in too early. Rather than come in at the end and say you're part of a bigger world,
Yeah.
Margaret, he comes in and goes, basically, there's a cult, there's an Antichrist. Your mate Carly, to that little girl that you think's all right,
Mm,
she's gonna have the devil's baby in like 3 days.
yeah.
And he tells the
Three
same story. He
days.
goes, well, he says like on the 6th, and it's not that
It's
far
like a
away.
it's like a super quick pregnancy as well, isn't it? Like if you're getting pregnant by the devil, it doesn't
It
take that
doesn't
long.
show until he's 10 minutes before the baby's due.
Yeah, that's it. I feel
Um,
like that'd be handy if it was like that all the time, wouldn't it? Because I know.
normal, normal, normal. Have a baby done.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, he kind of explains that, and Margaret starts to do some digging at this point, doesn't she? She's looking for files. There are like some hidden files. She does like an underground chamber. Uh.
I think this is
That she
after she gets. I think this is after she gets like cancelled for a little bit. So
Oh
before
yeah,
that, she
yeah, yeah.
basically goes, "No, I'm not. There isn't someone having the devil's baby. All right, get out of it." And
Mm.
she leaves them. But this is when she gets caught up in. She gets caught up in like some of the riots.
Oh yeah, that's when
Gets caught
that's
up in
when
some
they
of the
go to
riots.
they go to like a museum, don't they? And
Yeah.
there's obviously a really good moment where she talks to Carlita about like things that perhaps have happened to her. Carlita like runs away, and then there's this moment where she sees like a creepy hand, and it looks like perhaps the the burned up body of Angelica like reaching towards Carlita, but she turns away for a moment, looks back. No, in fact, it was just a vision. And then, yeah, when the riots are kind of breaking out, Margaret's having these like demonic hallucinations, and these are great, like in slow motion, where she's getting
Getting her
caught
by the
up with
shoulders and pinning her down. It's like
all
she's
these
being dragged
bodies,
away.
and the demon's arms are kind of coming in, and yeah, it's great. It was really effective. Um, but then after that happens is when Sister Sylvia, one of the head honchos at the orphanage, postpones Margaret taking her vows and becoming a nun. Basically, orders her to distance herself from Carlita. They talk about Margaret's past and like she was a problem child and various
Oh
things as
yeah, because
well.
she said she used to be a problematic child. And that's how she's kind of related to Carlita, right?
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, um, Mother Superior basically says, "We noticed that you've been sharing caring compassion for this girl who we think is a wrong 'un. So actually,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to get married to God for a bit until you've worked that out,
Oh, Lord.
and stop being kind to her, right? Leave her bloody alone.
Leave her alone. Stop being kind to her. Don't do a goddamn thing with her. You know what?
Don't do the
Um.
things that you're meant to do as a nun.
Yeah.
Leave her be by herself, actually.
Mm,
Um, so Angelica is not Angelica. Margaret is kind of thrown out by this, and she
yeah.
also meets. I think it also in the street she sees Paolo again, and he hadn't
Oh
realized she
yeah.
was a nun at first, and he says, You are a nun. Actually, like, you leave me alone." He's run away from it. Like, someone's got to
He's
him. He
kind of
wants to
like
stay away.
he's almost like no, like he's acting like he doesn't recognize her. He's kind of speaking under his breath, saying things like "Sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know." Um. And yeah, as he's just about to say one particular piece of information.
She gets to him. She chases after him. She wants to know what's going on, but unfortunately, Paolo makes the same mistake that good old Charles Dance did earlier on, and he snitches on the devil.
Snitches on the devil at the last minute, and he gets absolutely flattened out by a truck. And I guess it's
Yeah,
similar to that kill in the Omen with the guy getting his head taken off. This is now Paolo gets split in half. Margaret's
yeah.
kind of holding on to him as he dies, and I guess she pulls him away, thinking, "Oh, he's all right, actually. I've managed to get him out of there." But no, she stood holding half of his body. Someone screams.
He does get halved. So unfortunately, the devil um, took his driving lessons from M. Night Shyamalan's character in The Signs, and he
Yeah,
pins him. He pins him against the wall
yeah.
with his car,
I forgot to
like
mention,
uh,
like when
like his wife.
when Ralph Ineson's character was kind of talking about the stuff in the church, he basically there's a huge exposition dump here, but I'm kind of here for it. I'm not too bothered by it at this point. He basically says like the church, desperate to regain power against the rise of secularism, is going to bring about the Antichrist to create fear and drive people back to the church. And there's pretty much like a whole exposition dump which shows us how the devil like impregnated someone ages ago. So essentially, it's talking about Carlita not necessarily being the Antichrist at this stage, but being the mother of the Antichrist,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because it's been established that the devil can only have another kid with one of his own kids. So he's got to find someone else that was born that will have the devil's 666 mark, because that's what Paolo did say. We have a flashback to it where he says, "Look for the mark.
Look for the mark. Look for the mark. Bang! Don't even
Look
say
for
that
the
out
mark,"
loud because you will a split second later be dead.
because the devil is always a few meters away from you in his car, ready to run you over. Don't
Exactly.
say it.
Exactly.
He's like, right, I'm going to stand just in his peripheral vision. I'm going to flash my headlights at him. So don't say it. Flash, flash. He's bloody said it. Right.
He's
Get him.
bloody said it. Get him. Flat him out. Killed
Um,
him.
yeah, so he gets him. Um, so yeah, she remembers about us being asked to look for the mark, and she spies in Luz, who she originally was going to have her confirmation and taking the veil on the
Yep.
same day. She's going on with hers, but thankfully the ceremony room is absolutely surrounded with like little areas that you could look in through cracks in the door.
Yeah. That's lucky.
She's
I
peeking
mean,
through all the windows like someone at Grange Hill.
Luz
Like,
gets a lovely haircut, and the haircut she gets kind of looks a little bit like the sort of headwear that Margaret's got on behind you. It's like the
yeah,
same haircut. I was thinking, Has that been done on purpose so that like it just fits perfectly with your hair? Just
When she's dressed as Scottish widows there at the end. The When Luz goes through the ceremony, I found myself thinking, isn't this nun putting this thing on really roughly? Like tying all the
yeah.
things up. Like
Oh my god.
just do it nice.
Incredibly roughly. It's like, uh, oh god, it's too tight.
Like
Horrific.
your mum used to like brush your hair and it always gets tangled. Like ah.
Bloody hell, give me a chance. I'm fighting for my life
Yeah.
here. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah. So she has the ceremony and then as a lots of them have a lie on the floor and do
Yeah.
some words. I don't know if that's
Oh yeah.
traditionally a part of the ceremony or that
That was
is
kind of
indicative that
interesting.
something's wrong.
I like that. But then again, there's a lot of things that happen in this film, and again, it feels like a sort of classic horror movie in a sense, and even like a giallo movie in a sense, where like sometimes things just happen because they look a bit spooky or cool, or like the visual is. There's loads of bits where like the sun is like glaring on a particular place, and it kind of looks kind of cool. It's framed ever so nicely, and you know what? I don't always need to be told exactly what's happening at that moment. I like the fact when films like this just show you something that looks kind of cool. I think it adds to the environmental storytelling of a film like this.
Yeah, I think really, really, it's a cool, and it has like that dreamlike quality to it, where it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily all make sense, and especially when there's been hallucinations like possession, you begin to lose potentially, at least partially, track of what's really happening and what is, this escalating hideous vision that's creeping into the reality a little bit more. This is though when Margaret finds the Resident Evil room where there's like loads of files that said it was the
Oh
Wesker's
yeah,
names all over all of these.
this is absolutely perfect. The fact that we've got files that are relevant to this, but we've also got all the other files as well, the history of the files, all these different versions of the attempted Antichrist mum births.
Yeah, the
Uh,
Cyania like accords.
yeah.
The Cyania files are all together and it shows all the attempts they've got them. And it's like in Alien Resurrection where there's loads of test tubes of Ripley's, but thankfully it's only Polaroids saying, nah, that baby's no good. That's no good. This baby died.
Yeah, it's like
One of them
essentially every single
survived.
one is like deformed or died like in birth, but it does seem like there's one of them that survived. And
But there's no
it's
picture. That picture's missing.
no bloody picture. The picture's completely missing. That's annoying, isn't it? That's annoying. We need to
And
find that separately.
we are led to believe that that's going to be Carlita then.
Hmm.
Um, shit. Margaret goes to rescue Carlita
Yeah,
and get her out. And she's looking for the mark on her, but can't
can't
find
find where
her.
it is.
All the nuns burst in and they capture them. Margaret gets thrown into the bad
Oh,
room,
just before that happens, as she's sort of as what's her name? Carlita's like drawn away
being
from
taken
her.
away.
She screams and she sees the 666 marked in like the roof of her mouth. Um, you'd
Do you
never
reckon you'd
find it
spot
in any
that?
other I don't think
I
you'd
got Sherlock
what like
Holmes vision. The single.
it have to be perfect perfect lighting going right in there. I think you'd never find that. If you just went, right, let's look for this mark on you, you'd be looking for ages before you even thought about having a look in the old roof of the mouth. I sure would.
I reckon you'd check like you'd be checking the bum before you check the roof of the. I don't think that's the last. I reckon that's the last place you'd check.
What are you
You'd
doing?
be checking
I'm
soles of
checking
their
your bum.
feet,
What are you
soles of their
doing?
feet, armpits,
I'm checking your bum. Shouldn't you check like my arms and stuff first? No, no, I'm checking your bum.
looking behind the
Well,
ears.
sounds very inappropriate in terms of this situation. Apologies.
Um,
But
she
but
gets
yeah,
imprisoned.
she gets locked in like the chokey at this point, doesn't she?
She does.
Basically they're saying basically they're just turning their back on Margaret at this point. They're just like she's interfering too much. She's kicking right off. But Father Gabriel, who we've been
She comes and
introduced
helps
to a
her
couple of
escape.
times, doesn't necessarily seem like someone who might be a good guy in this way in this he's just another character's about. But
He
yeah, he
just
comes and
drives her
helps her
about.
escape.
That's his thing.
Yeah. He helps her escape and takes her back to see um Father Brennan, and this is where they try and do a little bit of piecing together everything. They all look at the files, right? Let's have a good look at the files in detail to see if we've missed anything, and then the reveal happens, and I don't know if I necessarily saw it coming or like I don't know. It's an interesting turn for it to take. I guess it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, they find out while they're looking through. Oh, hang on. You know who's got in my key items a picture that came from my adoption file, which has
Mm.
the same sellotape mark on it
It's got
as
the same sellotape mark on the back, and it looks like it's me.
yeah,
Me, Margaret.
and
I
she
feel
has
like
the 666 in her hair.
if you had a mark on your scalp all your life, you'd know it was there, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd
You
you would have
touch the
you would
top
have
of your head,
touched
even. What's
you would have
that?
touched it at some point. You'd gone, hang on a minute, is that 666 on my head? But no, apparently Margaret doesn't touch her own head. In all these years, she never has. And Father Brennan has a good old look at it. When he sees it, he's like, "Oh my god, can't believe it."
Right. Do you want to stay here and make sure you don't have the devil's baby? He goes, nope. Off to the hospital to get an abortion. Actually, see you later.
Yeah, straight to get an abortion in 1971 Rome. Don't know how how readily available they were. But she's on her way, and I think actually Father Brennan does say something about a doctor he knows who's very, very
You've got
good.
said, look, you've got to stay with us, stay with the gang, because if you separate us out,
That's right. That's right.
this prequel's going to happen. And she goes, bloody won't. I'll see you later.
It
She
bloody
gets in the
won't.
car and
No,
happens, but then you know who's big into a car accident, Ben? That's right, the devil.
the devil
Um,
absolutely loves a car accident. Ever since cars were invented, he was like, "I'm gonna have an absolutely great time with this."
yeah, the devil's driving around Rome, having it like its own Grand Theft Auto, just smashing up everyone. Um,
Yeah.
so
Um.
the devil smashes into her in a car. She gets out and goes mad. She is like almost possessed.
So this is the
So,
bit that is very, very reminiscent of Possession, where she's kind of like, again, like these moments are so great. They're almost like sort of interpretive dance or something like that. And just the noises she was making, although I'm pretty sure that there was some sort of like overdub happening because I could kind of hear at least three layers of like sound, like her voice and then something else and a bit weird. But again, very unconventional. It wasn't like the standard fare where you get like a deep demon voice or like a creepy distorted voice. There's kind of like a lot of interesting stuff happening, and it's not necessarily like a possession. It's almost like a fit slash dance in a way, reminding me of that weird Joker scene with old Joaquin Phoenix when he's in the toilet doing his weird little dance. A bit like that
just
slash the
walking down some
possession scene,
stairs, doing some big kicks
doing
to a
some big
Gary
kicks.
Glitter
Yeah,
song.
doing Gary Glitter song. God,
She's walking
what?
down there. Her belly is filling up with devil babies, going
Yeah.
do
Oh
do.
God.
It was a great time.
Oh. And she even
Um,
like it seems like a waters break as well. So obviously again a similar to possession in a way where like these bodily fluids are sort of going being yeah. It's it's good. I was affected by this. I
yeah,
think it
this
was
is
a
like we we joke she doesn't do that song, but yeah, this was another one of these horrific like body horror scenes, like the swelling of the belly, the injuries that she's picked up from the car crash, and from a piece of performance work, um, she's been really like well put together until it basically all comes apart. So Nell Tiger Free has done a wicked job here
yeah,
portraying
yeah,
this character.
definitely.
Lots of really
Yeah.
intense physical acting here.
Yeah, most definitely. Intense physical acting that kind of feels like it's coming from a place like this character has truly lost control. Yeah, it's really
So
great.
she's a
It's really
bit
effective.
possessed, but she passes out as the womb fills, wakes up
Mm.
in a hospital bed, surrounded by people definitely people in the cult, including your friend and mine, Bill Nighy,
I
aka
kept
Cardinal Lawrence.
I kept forgetting about him in this film. Whenever he turned back up, I'm like, oh yeah, Bill Nye.
You're
What
in
you do?
this.
You been doing during this film? Where you been? And again, this is very reminiscent of Rosemary's Baby, of all the like close-ups of the elders, the faces of the elders, all there
Yeah.
looking creepy. And I guess it's now that we realize that who's in on it as well, including Luz, because it's obvious that when she took um when she took Margaret out for the night at the 2004 discotheque in the future, it was all a
Listen to
ploy.
LSDJ.
It was it was all a ploy to get her to bring her defenses down so they could like inject her or something and then take her and get her impregnated by the devil. It's a shame because I kind of like Luz, so a bit
Yeah,
annoying that she's bloody evil in it.
she was nice, but it turns out that that song that was just passing through her head at the time, maybe she really was better off alone.
Mm.
Um, and then she yeah, so Luz is part of it. They deliver the baby. I think really good work here in
Mm.
terms of acting sensibly in this film. Margaret, like it's inevitable at this point. You are having the devil's baby. We have it's
Yeah.
quite a horrific scene where she gets that silk over her head, and then we get
Mm.
the it feels like we never see it's like the shark in Jaws. We never fully see the devil. We see his hands, see his gross little licky devil tongue. Never see all of him though.
Yeah. It's like it's an interesting moment as well because it was like bodily autonomy is really sort of front and center here. Um, like there's a lot of pro-choice sort of stuff as well. The sort of about like the fundamental rights of like women, especially when it comes to stuff like this, and how it's represented is almost like these people are like society. Society is going, this baby, even though it's we're using your body, this baby is ours. This baby belongs to us, and we're
Yeah,
making the decisions based on
it
that. And I
belongs to them. And then
guess,
like the view of the church as well, with a lot of people looking at the rights
yeah,
of women to choose whether or not to continue with pregnancies in the face of religious beliefs. You know,
yeah,
you say, I mean, this is a film set in the 1970s in a predominantly Catholic country,
hmm,
but it's no different from a piece of entertainment that comes out now with a very serious message. You are in a period of time when people in what you would consider to be modern and developed countries, the
hmm,
US, the UK to some degree, even people saying that they don't think that women should have entire autonomy over their bodies, and that things like religious beliefs should play a factor in what they can
yeah,
choose to happen here. And this is directly personified by there being a church who wishes to exert control over a populace in general, by in this
yeah,
case bringing, the metaphor doesn't hold up to the fact that all babies are an antichrist, but they want to bring
yeah,
about something which they feel is naturally the enemy of what they would be following, because
yeah,
it gives them the ability to generate fear and control amongst people. Because
yeah, yeah,
you know in this one it's never given the impression that the church are just desperate to get bums on seats and they just really want to be able to reach out to people and encourage them back to the church to improve their lives. It is an aspect of a fear of losing influence and control over the populace, because
yeah,
you've let
most
things get too
definitely.
bad. Like, you're not
Hmm.
helping. You've offered people empty comforts for a long time, and now people want fundamental change, and they're ignoring what you've been selling and what's kept you in
Hmm.
comfort and decadence all this time.
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense. Couldn't have put it any
Sorry, an
better.
unusually serious point for me. Back to that. Bill Nighy's up there and he's saying, "Oh, let's have a look at this baby then.
He
I'm going to
he's
call him
still
Damien."
he's still kind of like acting like he's doing this for the greater good and kind of like talking to Margaret as if he loves her. I think he even says "I love you," doesn't he?
I think he does have a
At
fondness
some
for her, because
point.
this is a girl he's known for all of her life.
Yeah,
And this is where she plays a great role here, because having had the baby and they deliver the baby by C-section, they stitch Margaret's body back up, and then
yeah.
she calls out. Cardinal Lawrence comes over. She goes, "Oh, let me see my baby. I am his."
He says first, like, what is the sex of the baby? And there's not just one. There's bloody two of them. Um, she's got a boy and a girl, and obviously they pretty much disregard the girl and just say that the boy is the Antichrist. Kind of complicated, though, isn't it? How they got to make the Antichrist? So like, we need the devil to make a
I
mum,
have one baby
have one baby, and then mate
for her
with
to
his
grow
own
up.
sort. It's like Prometheus all over again, wasn't it? Like, how was the alien made? Well, there's bloody. We got to make the little black goo
A
first.
black goo has to go in
It,
someone's eye, and then he has to have a monster come out of him, and then it has to
impregnate.
impregnate his wife, who will get it surgically removed so she doesn't die, and then that goes on to one of those Jesus aliens. Jesus again, got him.
Absolutely mad. I mean, way more complicated than in this film, but still, there's a lot
It's
more
only a couple of
steps.
steps removed.
There's only a couple of steps removed. Um, so yeah, essentially, it's revealed, obviously, that Carlita was too young. Margaret was brought to Rome because of that. So I'm going a bit backwards as
That's
well.
it.
But yeah, when they've got the baby, she sort of says, I want to hold the baby," and they kind of go, "Oh," and she sort of smiles, and I think they're a bit
She's
like,
like,
"Oh,
oh, she's in on it. Yes.
she's in on it. We got her. We got the Antichrist mum ready to go." I mean, what a
She'll be
double
ever
act,
so
eh?
helpful.
The Antichrist and
And
the Antichrist mum.
Cardinal Lawrence is like, oh, I don't fucking want to change nappies. Come on. Can't look after the Antichrist all by myself. The mom wants to be involved. Brilliant. And like as she's bringing the babies up, and the old Mother Superior is there saying, oh, actually, it is very important for some
Yeah,
bonding time. And
I
Cardinal Lawrence says, oh, you're his mom. He's very proud of you. Can you hear him talking to you in your mind? So I hear. I only hear my own
I
voice though, and what I hear from you is getting stabbed.
I saw this stabbing coming a mile off, but I didn't know who was going to get stabbed. I was like, is she going to stab the baby, the nun,
Yeah,
the cardinal herself? I was like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I thought initially maybe she just hold the scalpel up to the baby and say right, but no, she goes in and stabs Cardinal Lawrence. He pretty much dies,
eat
just
shit
like collapses
immediately. Yeah,
immediately, and she does stand up and sort of holds the baby like prisoner? No, not prisoner. What word am I thinking of?
she's like hostage. She's like,
Hostage.
right, that's
Hostage
it.
situation. She's like, I'm gonna kill this baby, but she's not very good at
If
it. She don't control the room. Like the nuns are getting way too close,
if Mother
and
Superior had
then
been RoboCop, she'd have blasted her away. She
she'd have
wouldn't have gone.
absolutely gotcha.
I
You're
mean, she's
coming with
doing
me.
exceptionally well at holding anything, having just had a C-section 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, because she gets like sewn up. But then again, I was thinking maybe the pregnancy happens quickly. Maybe everything else happens quickly as well. In this pregnancy, you're fine after a couple of minutes. Parallels to Prometheus. Everyone said the same thing about Prometheus, that she wouldn't be able to stand up mere seconds after having like something ripped, like torn out of her stomach and like cauterized to seal the wound. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are some parallels with
So maybe
this
the
going.
parallel with this is not, in fact, Immaculate, but Prometheus.
It's Prometheus, yeah, when
And
you're
yeah,
all along.
she holds the baby hostage and says, "Oh, I'll buddy dash him on the floor." Um,
She's like,
but
I'll
yeah, you're
stab
right.
him. I'll stab him, but she can't do it. She's obviously already bonded with old little Damien.
I mean,
They're
that's
already
the
best
thing, isn't
mates.
it? Nuns famously soft, can't stab a baby for love nor money.
Yeah, just bloody
Um,
hell, grow up,
and
innit?
she doesn't want to do it. And then, who's got no problem with stabbing someone innocent and out of the blue though?
Oh, I was heartbroken by this moment, Andy. Heartbroken.
Shanked.
I
Anime's
shanked.
greatest betrayals.
I was devastated. I kind of wanted Luz and Margaret to go forth in life and become
Thelma and
Damien's
Louise style.
Thelma and Louise. I'll become Damien's two mums, but no, she stabs Margaret. Everybody else like runs away. The chamber is like on fire because someone just like knock over one of the lights or something
No,
to
the
come.
one of the tea lights they put in to give it an atmospheric birth. No, the Mother Superior basically goes, oh, burn it all up then, will you? Because I ain't cleaning up a dead cardinal's body. Just burn this place down.
Yeah, burn this
Sometimes
place
I
to the
feel like that
ground.
after I've cooked. It's messy in the kitchen. Made a curry or something.
You know
You've used
what?
all the pots.
Do you know what? Are you gonna do the washing up? No, I'm just gonna burn the fucking house down. To be honest, I've had a guts full.
I'm destroying this.
But
I
this
was
is
doing
another
DIY
thing where
this
like,
weekend and it was going badly. I felt like doing that. I said to Karen, I'm just going to brick this room up. Just don't use it anymore.
break it up, Jonathan Creek style. um, but yeah, also, how many times do villains or evil characters do this? Just I want you to kill them. I'm not going to stay and wait and watch to make sure it happens. I'm just going to leave. I'm off. I
Yeah,
ain't got time.
they
I'll I'll
proper
I'll, I'll make sure you kill them.
they proper Goldfinger. They put the laser on, going towards it, and then go, well,
Yeah,
oh, neighbors is starting. Get
neighbors is starting.
yeah.
Yeah, see you later. All the best. Um, yeah, and then they
But
leave, and
Carlita is there. He goes, oh, come on, let's escape, shall we?
yeah, Carlita's there. Obviously, Margaret, played by Nell, grabs the other baby, the little girl. I guess not an Antichrist baby, but also just
Is
another
she the
discarded.
is she the Posy Christ?
The pos. Jesus Christ. Sorry to say Jesus Christ
Yeah,
again,
that's
but
exactly
the
if
Posy
any he was
Christ.
about.
Oh, the Posy Christ too. I'm assuming all three of them are three different generations of 666 heads or mouths. I don't know where hers is, but yeah, they run an escape, saves the daughter, and then we do see the like demonic vision in the flames. It's like a jackal. And the jackal gets mentioned obviously in the original Omen, and the jackal gets
Yeah,
mentioned earlier by Father Brennan. And yeah, and this is where we get like the link to that original movie, where we find out that the baby boy Damien is being given to American diplomat Robert Thorne. They got a lovely photo of him, a lovely headshot of Robert Thorne.
lovely
Um,
headshot of him, and they've gone, oh, they've just had a tragedy. He said
yeah.
they've supposedly miscarried, but do you reckon there's something untoward there? They've just bumped off their baby.
How can you how can you go, well, this miscarriage just happened. Let's get over there and replace the baby. We'll just fly all the way to America. Like
Oh no,
so
he's the
yeah, that's
diplomat to
right. You're
Italy, so
right.
he's there. He's
Okay, that's
local.
fine. I thought they were gonna go, yeah, we'll get there, and in the 12 hours it takes us to get there, hopefully they won't notice.
Oh, the devil
Yeah,
just
so
magic him there. Just
yeah, what kind of devil just magic it? What's this? Oh, devil's been burned up. It's all right. And then years. It's like I think years go by, but we don't actually know how long. The
yeah. And
daughter's
Father
like probably
Brennan,
about 8 or something, living in the
yeah,
mountains with
like
Carlita.
yeah, they're like little kids. But Father Brennan goes to Nick Furia, and she's basically become Margaret's become Jamie Lee Curtis from
Yeah,
Halloween reboot at this point.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
there
yeah.
going, clocking the shotgun. Here, what's your game? And he's like, I'm so
What do you
sorry.
bloody
They
want?
they know you're not dead. They're going to be coming.
So is that sequel to the prequel? Is that what we're saying?
So what would
Maybe.
you call this? What would you call the sequel to this? The second Omen
Yeah, I guess so. I guess all this stuff can happen
or
while
the
Damien's
Omen's
off growing up.
the Omen's extended family?
Yeah, the Omen's mates.
Um,
Um,
Father
yeah, and
Brennan
that's
does finish though by saying, "Oh,
they've
I mean,
bloody
probably
named him, you know. Of
they've
course,
named him.
I, of course they've named him. He's years old now. I'm glad they've named him. What they named it? Go on.
He's a bad boy, but he's a bad boy, but like still give him a name. Yeah, his name's
Yeah,
Damien.
and she's
The
gone. Yeah,
Omen.
sounds horrible.
So
Yeah,
that
and
name, that sounds like a bad omen. Looks at the camera, gives it a wink, cocks the shotgun,
wink,
and
wink.
then we get like a new metal. So we don't get a new metal ending.
That would be great though. So that's the end of the first Omen. Have you got any name game?
Got a couple for you, Ben. What's
Lovely.
the title? What's the synopsis? Sorry.
Synopsis: a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but encounters a darkness that calls her to question her faith.
Okay, so a young woman sent to Rome to continue her life of service to the church, but she encounters a German sausage that makes her question her faith.
Is it the worst Omen?
The First Omen,
The First
correct?
Omen. Yeah, sorry for not adding the correct sort of thing there. Sorry, apologies.
Sorry to our German listeners.
Sorry to our German listeners. Okay, a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but encounters Hugh Jackman, who's doing a massive sing, song, and dance, and everyone in Rome actually says they've never seen anyone like that before. It's
Is
probably
it
the
the
first of its
first
kind.
showman?
It's the first showman.
The first greatest
Singing
showman.
singing the song. This is the greatest show. I can't even think of a song from that
That's
from
the
that
one.
film now.
That's one of them.
Is that it?
That's one of
There
them.
we
This is
go.
the greatest show.
Good.
Um, there's a lovely Michelle Williams one about a tightrope. Next up, a young woman was meant to go to Italy to continue her service to the church, but actually she goes to Muscat, but roughly the same things happen, so it's fine.
Wait, Muscat, where's that?
I can't tell you what's that the capital city of without telling you the answer.
Oh my God, I can't even think. But the first,
She goes to a Middle Eastern country.
yo,
Um,
the first, let's say Yemen.
it's not Yemen.
Ah, I don't know.
She's
Is it
gone to,
rhyming? Is it rhyming with first or omen?
uh, rhyme is a strong word, but Omen.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure,
She
unfortunately.
goes to the First Omen.
Ah, see, that makes more sense. And yeah, not on it. Not on it.
Yeah, you got
Good
any
though.
more?
I like it. Yeah, okay. So a young American woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but before that, she's gonna have a big drink.
Is it the Thirst Omen?
It's the first omen, correct?
Um, so in this one, a young female who has a terrible bout of bad luck, which has been inflicted on her by a witch in America. She goes to Italy to try and break the this this bad this bad thing that's been cast upon her, this hex, and she does get mostly fine, except she always mispronounces her own gender. What's that?
The cursed woman.
Correct. The cursed woman.
To which
Because the
gender do you
nature
identify?
because
Woman.
the nature of the curse was that she can't pronounce it properly.
Yeah, it's a very specific curse. Okay. A young American woman who's sent to Rome to begin life service to the church, but encounters a darkness that fills her belly up. But instead of a baby popping out, her belly fills up and then just explodes.
The burst omen.
The burst omen is correct, Andy. Yes. Yes, indeed.
That's
Is
me
that it?
done.
Is that it? We're
That's me
done. I've
done.
had a guts full. I've had a
That's me
guts
done.
full.
No, not a
Okay.
guts full. But a pleasant
I've had a
sufficiency, Ben.
pleasant amount.
I'm just
Okay.
right.
So now we've got to rate the film A to F. Pluses and minuses are allowed. Where do you think you stand on the first Omen? The
Um,
Omen.
I enjoyed it. I think really, really well made. I think I think this has been boosted for me by the low expectations that I'd come into to begin with. Religious horror is not my favorite. It's never going to be the most compelling to me. Because I'm not particularly religious, but there are still a lot of messages, particularly in this time of women's autonomy over their own bodies, being brought into question by religious religious
Mm-hmm.
entities and religion being used as a reason for people who want to take those choices away from individual women. I think that's got some really important messages to it. And also, genuinely, the idea of driving or promoting things which are the antithesis of what you should believe in as a method for an organization to maintain power and influence over people. Some really interesting messages there. And I think, you know, probably does come across as, people who do follow religions. It could be very damning of the people that look at the nice elements of this, but looking at it as a piece of machinery and as an organization, some really scary messages to tell in that one. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
hold back on the physical effects. It doesn't hold back on the prolonged, quite harrowing scares. And I think really well performed. Um, Having said all those positive things about it, because I rate based on my enjoyment of these and how I would rank them overall, it won't rank as highly for me purely because the theme is something that I don't resonate with as much as some others in terms of the religious horror elements of it. But it's still a really solidly made film, so I'll still give this a B.
Big bad B. I might go for a B plus, because I find it hard to like pick anything I really did dislike about it. I really liked the sort of cinematography and the direction style was great. I like the fact that it kind of had nods to the original, but didn't feel like it was trying to replicate too much. Even though some sequences felt like they could have easily were taken directly from that film, but they still felt like they were of this movie itself. A really great central performance by Nell Tiger Free. That's right, isn't it? I said that in the right
Yeah,
order.
Nell Tiger Free, an excellent
That's
name as well. Well done,
an
Nell.
excellent name. Some really great, like, visceral, kinetic acting going on. I enjoyed that, and yeah, for a film that is like a prequel to an already established franchise, we've not really had many hits when it comes to those sort of films. Most of them have been duds or kind of unnecessary or just a bit silly. But this, I feel like, works really well. It feels like if you try to like picture what the origin of that particular character could be, this makes total sense, doesn't it? And the fact that it links nicely to the original Omen's great as well. So yeah, I think I'll go for a B plus for this one.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad we saw that one. And as I say, if you haven't seen Immaculate, I think it pairs very nicely with it.
Yeah,
Very
I'm gonna
nicely
see
to see
that
two
ASAP.
responses to the things. And I think
Yeah,
maybe by a slim margin for a one and done watch, especially, maybe this has a
sliver.
deeper meaning and a deeper message behind it around the nature of religion. But Immaculate covers a lot of the same areas, but I think that is built for a little bit more popcorn entertainment as well. And I think I benefited from not
Yeah,
knowing the ending on that one because it wasn't tied into an existing follow up already. But yeah, interesting.
awesome. Interesting film, definitely. 100%. Recommend it without a doubt. So
Would
that's
you
it
say
then.
this is one to
That's the
rush out to
movie.
the cinema, Ben, or would you say you can wait for streaming? What would you recommend for the in this economy? What are you going to be suggesting?
I think don't. It's a weird one. It depends what you're sort of looking for, isn't it? Like if you're seeing one or the other, Immaculate and the First Omen. I think if you're seeing one, maybe wait for the other.
Yeah,
For streaming.
yeah,
So I
quite
feel like
quite similar.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you enjoy the original and
And
you have any interest.
support horror at the cinema. But yeah,
Yeah, and also support what was already mentioned in when we were talking about letterbox comments. Like it does feel like a very well realized vision from a director as well, which I feel like doesn't happen much when it comes to big franchise horror prequels and sequels and stuff. It feels like sometimes it wants a by the numbers thing, or like, oh, we need to include this moment and that moment. But yeah, so
yeah,
it's done pretty
definitely
well.
worth calling out that it should be celebrated when a creative voice is given room to do a thing. I don't think your by the numbers
Hmm.
franchise bait would let you have a devil's arm reaching out of a pregnant
Yeah.
woman's crotch. And here we go. And here we are.
And here we are. What a time to be alive, eh? Okay, so that was the First Omen. Next week, we're covering another new release because, this month is all about the new releases. It's Abigail with special guest Ed Harvey coming back on the show. Really looking forward to Abigail. Saw the trailer again and it made me go, oh, hell yeah, I'm in for that.
Cannot
Um,
wait. Is the release date this Friday?
this week, this Friday, Andy, this Friday, can you believe it? Exciting
It's up to
stuff.
this weekend.
So thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to all of our current patrons. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or a review. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Discord, all the places. Just search Horror Hangout Podcast. You'll find us. Uh, thanks, Andy, for being a right horror dude.
Thanks, Ben, for being a right horror dude. And thanks, everyone, for joining us again. We'll see you for another new release
Yeah,
next
we'll
week.
see you next week.
Don't snitch on the devil, all right? Because I'll fucking have you.
Don't snitch on
Unless
the
you're
devil.
somewhere where no one could hit you with a car or some glass. Those are his two favorite methods.
Oh man.
So certainly don't slag him off in a greenhouse by the motorway. If you do
No.
that,
You're gone. You're done for. Right. See you next week.
see you later. Bye.
Bye.